Mic test. Check, check. What's up, chat? How you doing? Give me a second. What's up, chat? How you doing? Happy Monday. Sorry, I had a twist in here that was not cooperating. Okay, that bitch and I'm faded. Curl's gone. No, they're still there. I just pulled them back. They're still around. Um, jeez, why is it so loud? Sorry. Yeah. They're on. What's up? What's good, Scully? How you doing? Hello, hello, Anti Story. Yeah. What's good? What's going on? Happy Monday. It's a day where things happen. Capitalism this kind of video is infuriating. Well, we're gonna watch it, or we're going to enjoy the cringe. Um, for sure, for sure. Well, new hair. It's not new hair. It's the same hair. I just pulled it back. So it's the same hair. Um, yeah, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. I'm gonna grab me a Pop Tart and something to drink. But I want to put something on so y'all can watch, so you're not alone.
Sean the Black says she's my African
Would not
princess.
be mad if I watched the video.
Skelloy has just subscribed.
Ludwig.
Tuxt of Ride gifted a tier 1 sub to Skelloy. They have given 11 gift subs in the channel.
Ludwig would be fine with this, I'm sure. He loves smaller creators. I'm gonna grab a Pop Tart real quick because I'm starving, chat, because I haven't eaten. And I will be right back. Right back. What? The many victims of Pokimane? What? I don't know. This is 30 minutes. Oh, okay. This is the same person who made How Charlie Took Over YouTube Without Trying. We gotta watch. This is just like a you know what I mean? It feels like a clout thing, for sure. We'll start with this video from Ludwig, which is outdated because it's 8 days old at this point, or 3 days old. Same difference. I'll be back.
Emphasis video by saying Twitch has had a great year. Awesome PR year, mostly thanks to the man at the top, Dan Clancy. However, this past week, 2 big blemishes on that otherwise great year. The first one was when they got absolutely thrashed by Team YouTube in Dodgeball. Get fucking owned, nerds. Get owned, Hassan. Get owned, idiot. The second one is the news that dropped yesterday on their new update to their terms of service, which they tweeted about here. We've gotten some feedback that our policies around sexual content are unclear, so we've drawn clearer boundaries between what is and is not permitted on Twitch. Okay, great. And we also recognize that not everyone wants to see that type of content, so we're also updating criteria for homepage recommendations. What does this mean, Ludwig? Well, let's read. Previously prohibited content that is now allowed with label is 4 things. 1, content that clearly highlights breasts, butt, or pelvic region. 2, fictionalized, drawn, animated, or sculpted, fully exposed, fully nude, female presenting breasts, genitals, buttocks, regardless of gender. 3, writing on your body for, like, I don't know, thinking a sub or something. And then 4, erotic dances like disrobing, strip teases, or twerking. Okay, whoa, Twitch a bit horny. What is this new update? Why are they just saying, hey, allow all the sexual stuff in the world? Is that it? Is the answer they're horny? No, it's a little bit deeper than that. Now, this does come with a caveat. Any of this content is allowed, but you must label it that it is sexual content, which I believe will probably make it 18 plus, which is really just like a checkbox that says I'm 18 plus. But also, you must also you can no longer be recommended on the homepage, so you'll no longer be here. It's impossible. You won't have any of that, if it's labeled correctly, content on the homepage. It might still be recommended in the sidebar, but that's because there's no thumbnails. It won't be on the homepage. And the question everyone's asking, why? Why come out and be like, yeah, twerk on our website? Are they trying to get like a bunch of OnlyFans streamers? I don't think so. I think the answer is that content moderation is not a scalable business. It's not a good business to be in. You don't want to have to hire more and more people to just look through streams and say, okay, this is okay, but this is not okay, because that's what they've been doing for the past few years and losing. You've probably seen the stories before, but Twitch streamer Amaranth banned for spreading legs on stream. You know, Twitch streamer whoever banned for twerking. And Twitch writes new rules, and then there's new streamers who come along who try to stretch those rules. They get banned, or worse, they don't get banned. Everyone makes.
Okay, I'm actually back. A lot of stairs, chat. Living in a 7-story mansion is very difficult. Jeez. Okay. Yeah. Hello, chat. Happy Monday. Maybe it would be a brain rot day. So We can watch all of the brain rot stuff, like this video. Like the Jubilee video, Capitalism versus Communism. And at 11 a.m., so in 50 minutes, George Santos and Ziwe are releasing a video, I think. And I want to watch that as well. So ooh. Ooh. I don't know if I can watch it on streams. I don't know how this channel feels about reaction content. But I want to see this so badly now. I'm not doing the boob test. Why not? Because I don't want to. We'll close this out. Let me see if I can find where's Ziwe? Ziwe. There's so much to watch. Yeah. I asked George Santos all the hard-hitting questions. Watch live on YouTube Monday at 11 a.m. EST. Link in bio. This is a link to our YouTube channel. There's a link to the video. It's in 40 minutes. Okay. Okay, we have to watch this. We have to watch this, bro. Here. We'll put it in this order. This is 40 minutes, so perfect timing.
You cannot say.
Hannah.
Wait, I know this person. I think I follow this person on TikTok.
I don't want to argue.
You do want to argue. You wanted to make your point, so let me make it back.
Hannah,
And then you're going to try to say it's too spicy for me. No, I got you. Like, let me respond to you. It is not capitalism
Wait, no, I don't.
in and enshrining enslavement. And in fact, capitalism is what got rid of it and started pushing back against this centuries-old awful institution. So to say it's capitalism, I think is honestly offensive.
We are approaching the
Oh,
150th
white lady is offended by a black person making an observation about slavery. That's insane.
episode of Middle Ground, and we need your help to continue making more episodes.
Holocaust. Why would they do this? I think they're still like, Hassan, please. Hassan, we beg you. We beg you, please come on our page. Please, please. But like, why would they do this one? Also, this one would be very strange. It's not agreed to it, I think. Really? That's funny. Billionaire versus Socialist is, I want to be on that one. Let me on that one, please. Let me on that one, please. Santos down should be well, not so much. I think Ben would be down. Because Ben wants to, I think Ben would be fine with debating Hassan. Maybe not on Jubilee's channel, though. That might be the thing. Because Ben can't be talking like all that smack on his own channel, but like when it comes to like, hey, let's do a third party thing, he's like, oh no, Hassan's scary. You know what I mean?
Join our Middle Ground Patreon community and help us write the future of Middle Ground.
Oh, I have Eddie here. Honestly, you couldn't find another communist and another capitalist. This is like the only thing that I've seen that they've done 3 people. You know what I mean? They've always done 4 and 4. They chose Eddie over Grimm. I mean, Eddie has bigger platform, bigger number, better person. You know, that's just how it is. They never did the liberal versus leftist episode I applied for. You know what I mean? I applied during the summer and I had a whole like meeting with like Bridget and everything. But like it literally never went anywhere. Very strange. I forget how big Eddie is because he's on Rumble or whatever. Well, he was on like TikTok and stuff before he got banned. Is he on Rumble now? Is Midwestern Marks on Rumble? I don't want to open up a Rumble link, but I'm... No, he has 300 followers on Rumble. He has only like 50K on Twitter. What about their YouTube? They have 40K on YouTube. These aren't like huge numbers though. And they have 4,000
broadcast from the Midwestern Marks Institute.
4,000 on Twitch. So the numbers aren't huge. So I'm not entirely sure. Every Rumble user follow them. True. I'm not entirely sure why they made the choices they made specifically. I know he was huge on TikTok though. I know that for the fact. Yeah, who knows? I want them so badly to do an episode for black socialists versus black capitalists, or black communists versus black capitalists, or black leftists versus black conservative or something, bro. I want me to, because they did a black conservative versus white liberal video, and I'm like, why would you do that? You know what I mean? That's a stupid video. Do a black versus black video, please. Black on black violence. I need it. I crave it. Let me yell at some black conservatives. I'm not sure who this person is though. Also, apparently this is Ty Lopez.
America would be a more powerful country under communism.
Maybe agree or step forward.
Okay, first of all, first problem, first question sucks. This question is horrible. What is this framing? America would be a more powerful country under communism. Like, that's stupid. That's idiotic. I would be fine with the dissolution of the American empire as a whole. You know what I mean? Because people who identify as communists under this current system are not going to be pro-America or pro-America being powerful, right? That's stupid. That is a terrible question to ask in this conversation where you have communists versus capitalists. Why would anybody care about America being a more powerful country? Who cares about America being powerful? America being powerful is only important in as far as they institute capitalism and their version of capitalism in other countries. Imperialism, which is an extension of capitalism as a whole, right, is predicated on America's like power, and America utilizing that power among against other developing nations, right? So America being powerful is inextricably lied to America's tie to capitalism, because if America, walked back its need for incessant growth and expansion of power, then it wouldn't be fully capitalist in nature in the first place. It's such a stupid question that even its premise is like geared specifically in favor of the capitalist dogma. Like, it's so stupid. It's so stupid, dog. Right? It's such a dumb question. And this is the first question. We're 45 minutes into this video, and I'm already mad.
I think it would be a lot better for all the people who are working jobs that are not, I guess, tech, basically. So I make content, which means that I work a lot of hours.
I mean, they all make content. Like, I am very glad that they picked all content creators for communists, because I just didn't want to hear the whole, you hate capitalism, but you actually, I think it's a double-edged sword. You know what I mean? I don't want to hear the whole, you hate capitalism, but you participate in it thing. But now I think we might hear but you guys aren't even like traditional workers. You claim to care about like the plight of workers, but like, you get, direct donations or whatever. The like Hassan thing. The Hassan, talking point. So I'm just going to hear what they say.
Hours and I don't pay the same amount as a soft dev. So I think it would create more creativity in certain like creative industries, artists. If you make a bigger pie, everyone gets a bigger slice.
Yeah. I think one of the main misconceptions about communism is that it's just making everybody equally poor. When Marx and Engels wrote repeatedly that the first step under
Nerd. This is why I hate Eddie being here, bro. Because he's a nerd. This is what I was just about saying. To say, in that you can't have nerds talking about communism because they sound out of touch. You know what I mean? They sound out of touch. Like, well, Marx and Engels actually wrote that the first step on like, you sound out of touch. You sound completely like you're putting off all the working class people who are watching. Is like, okay, this guy's stupid. You know what I mean? I don't really care what he's saying. He's a nerd. Honestly, I just don't like nerds.
Communism is increasing the productive forces. In the U.S., over 80% of our population is living paycheck to paycheck. If you provide people's basic needs, if you invest in economic growth and in jobs and in infrastructure rather than investing in endless war and massacring Muslim people in Gaza, you're going to make this country a lot stronger. You're going to make the people a lot more stable here.
I grew up in a white ring area. I grew up in Denver, Colorado. I was born in Dallas, Texas. I'm the first American in my family. Everybody's from the Congo. If my family was able to come here, of course it would have some capitalist connections. So I grew up very much with the idea that everything I need is under capitalism. Individualism, freedom, all these things.
Listen, Eddie, if all you need to know about Eddie is that he was the person during that whole like the guy who was singing about like fudge rounds or whatever. Eddie was like his like main defender, saying all the leftists are alienating actual working class people, right, when they're trying to learn. And he's singing about how like, America sucks because people are too fat now and like diversity is bad. And he's like, oh, he's on his way. You feel me?
They're under capitalism, but I'm black.
Okay, wait. Does Eddie's hat say Black Rifle Coffee? It can't, right?
In America. So those contradictions really just create that friction where I'm like, this doesn't align with what I was told and what I'm actually seeing or actually feeling. So why did I come to communism? When I actually read it, when I went from Marx to Lenin to Mao to Deng to Fred Hampton, I started realizing like, oh, this is patriotism. This is the idea that I look at another American and think to myself, I want you to be fed. I want you to feel fulfilled in your life. I want you to feel like you actually have control within your society. Honestly, as somebody, again, who grew up in that right-wing area, that flies over everybody's heads.
Disagreeers are walking quick on this one. Can I say something first on this one to be so bold? Here's my argument. How come every communistic
this is Ty Lopez.
Country has to build a wall or a fence to keep people in? China ain't letting people out. My grandma, I remember going, my grandma. Yeah, but where did you come? But where did you come? There's not.
Toxic Bunny on this one. Who's Toxic Bunny? Twitch streamer? Oh, so they did have a Twitch streamer on here. Oh, yeah, bigger number. Yeah, 16K on Twitch. Oh, she's not like directly political on her Twitch thing. I don't know.
Not a mass immigration.
I don't know who Ty is. You don't know who Ty Lopez is? That's why I'm surprised. Ty Lopez, the knowledge guy?
Into Venezuela, into China, into Russia. Where do people want to go? Switzerland, America, Sweden. They're all talking about we need to build a wall because people are coming. China's not going.
Yeah, because you're blowing up their actual countries. You're putting in embargoes and sanctions and you're starving out their people by cutting them out of the global economy because they're quote unquote communist. And then you're surprised when people are like, I want to go to the place where people aren't being starved out because they're quote unquote communists. You feel me? I want to be able to go to a place where I can thrive and not have my future directly jeopardized just because the country I was born in. That's why people want to go to Sweden or no one wants to go to the UK, right? Whether like European countries or the Nordic countries or the US or whatever, right? Because that's what's happening. You feel me? You feel me? And like if you actually didn't just like cut these people out of the global market, then it wouldn't have been a problem, just like holistically.
Going, well, we better build a wall because all those Americans are coming across. Nobody's going there.
So you legally cannot become Chinese. I went to international school growing up, and every single non-Asian or anyone else that's like American or Canadian that's gone to China has never wanted to come back to the US. That's something that's really interesting. So I think it's like if you've never been.
That's an adverse selection, a group of people who are
Let her
already.
finish your point, and then
Like,
we got you.
I guess like whoever has the open mind to go visit usually doesn't want to come back. And I do live streaming, so I know a lot of live streamers who like permanently move over to the like Asia, especially China, because not just it's cheaper, it's also just higher benefits. Most people get like free healthcare, so it's a lot easier for you to survive there. I think it's not because
I feel like there's a point here that could be making that she's not really. Again, I know in the moment it's very hard to get your points like lined up because I mean he came in immediately with like, Venezuela bad, you know what I mean? Nobody wants to go to Venezuela. You feel me? That his talking points already lined up. But the answer to that is propaganda. You feel me? The answer to why does nobody want to go live in China or live in these like communist countries is propaganda. You're told that these countries are bad. You're told that these people are starving in these countries. You're told that communism's killed a bajillion people. You feel me? So when you're told this, you're not going to be like, I want to go to these countries even if you're poor. You feel me? Like it's straight propaganda. And keep in mind, the people who have the means to travel from like America or whatever to other countries aren't going to be your poorest selection of people, right? It's not the people that travel from developing nations that are being bombarded by, Western, colonial power. They're leaving out of necessity, right? They want to get to America so the bombs will stop falling on them. You know what I mean? They want to get to America so that, they don't have to face endless, occupation or warfare or what have you in these countries. You feel me? Or an imposed famine or imposed sanctions on them by these countries. They want to leave so that they can, live a comfortable life, and they can't do that because America is actively making it so that it's uncomfortable for them, right? And if you're living in America, you don't have an America breathing down your throat, no matter what America wants to say about the China boogeyman or whatever, right? You don't have an America breathing down your throat, imposing sanctions on you, cutting you out from the global markets. So even if you're the poorest citizen in America, you at least don't have to face that those sanctions that are imposed by an outward third party. So there's no reason to leave, right, to a place where there's not those sanctions because you don't have those sanctions in the first place. You feel me? It honestly hurts me. Whenever I try to describe how bad America is, my friend's response is, "Yeah, but it's not safe or good in other countries too." Yeah, and it sucks because they don't understand that that's America's doing. It's not safe in other countries because America's its express goal is to destabilize the regions that are not explicitly capitalist, right, and are not explicitly America's allies, so that they can use that as propaganda points against global communism. You feel me? That's why capitalism is better. That's the goal of America as a whole. You know what I mean? So propaganda, got to visit Beijing back in like 2013, and loved it. Now, post Trump, she's saying it was a terrible place to go and she hated it the whole time. Yeah, it's all, oh geez, I actually backspaced. All propaganda. I actually saw a good TikTok video about this by, I think I hope I saved it, by Madeline Pendleton. Let's see.
And when it comes to this video, Madeline turned him every which way but loose. Let's see.
I'm trying to find the actual video. It's the 20th.
I made a video talking about how...
Here. This is the video.
As an American, if I want to be... I made a video talking about how, as an American, if I want to be on the right side of history, 99% of the time, the easiest way to do this is just to not agree with anything the United States government is telling me. If the United States tells me a country's my enemy, it's probably not. If the United States tells me somebody's my ally, they're probably up to no good. This is the simplest shortcut to having a pretty good opinion about foreign policy that you as an American can take if you don't have time to research things. Fortunately, I do have time to research things. And that is why when this person said, if you don't like it here, you should try going to North Korea, Iran, or Afghanistan, I had to laugh. These are hilarious examples of other countries to choose, and I will explain why. First of all, North Korea, I as an American am not allowed to visit. I think I spent a lot of my childhood assuming this was because North Korea didn't want people going there and seeing what was going on. Actually, people from other countries can and do visit North Korea, but you know who's not allowed to visit North Korea? Americans. And it's not because North Korea won't allow us, it is because our own government will not allow us. Instead, they are content to make sure anything we think we know about the region comes from one source, primarily Radio Free Asia, a fake news source started by the CIA with the expressed goal of being anti-communist propaganda. Any weird story you've heard about North Korea, like that everybody there has to get the same haircuts? Yeah, that probably came from Radio Free Asia.
Actually, I'm not related to this, to be honest. Depends on what it is.
Which to this day is funded entirely by the United States government. So, babe, I cannot go to North Korea because the United States will not allow me, because they do not want Americans to see the disconnect between the propaganda machine that they have created, telling you things about North Korea, and what actually happens in North Korea. The second example, Iran, is somehow even more perplexing for you to bring up, because if you know anything, you know that the democratically elected prime minister of Iran was overthrown in a violent coup by the US government. Why? Because he was going to nationalize the oil fields in Iran, and that would mean trouble for American business. So instead, we overthrew him and installed a right-wing dictatorship that was sympathetic to American interests. A puppet government, if you will. That so violated and infuriated the Iranian people that they overthrew our puppet government, dispelled all of the Americans, and put in instead a reactionary government whose main goal was to oppose US intervention in any capacity. Everything you don't like about Iran, babe, you don't like because the United States government did it. That's right, my country, the United States, destabilized all of Iran for decades, dismantling their democracy because...
Then we got the gist of it. You like the video? I can do that. Right. So that kind of answers like the question, or I hope that answers the question of why, right, Ty is just dumb here.
People don't.
Again, I don't even understand why this is a question in a conversation about an economic system, in which economic system would be better for the American people. Why does America being powerful necessary for the American people to thrive? You know what I mean? Because you are the power of a country under is deterministic under like a capitalist system of how well you do capitalism, right? So of course they're not going to be powerful in like how much sway they have over the global markets if they are not directly competing in said markets. You know what I mean? It's a stupid question written by somebody who either is unaware of what communism actually is and thinks it's more of a governmental system as opposed to an economic structuring of the economy, or somebody who's directly antagonistic or opposed to communism and wants to paint communism in a bad light. Because the first thing you hear is that, oh, these communists can't say that America will be powerful and they want like China to take over America or something like that. You know what I mean?
Go. It's also because you're taught propaganda since a young age.
Okay, she
China's
says
scary, China's bad, evil, red dragon. So people don't go and don't even go see it. That's the problem.
I would definitely argue that a lot of China's success is due to the introduction of free markets, but if we want to run with this idea that China's a socialist country, which is just fundamentally untrue, I could also—
Well, then why are we arguing this? Why are we arguing this? Because Tai Lopez, somebody on the capitalist side, is the person that said, what about China? China bad. Why does nobody want to go to China? We're naming communist countries. So you can't at one point argue that China is bad because it's communist and no one wants to go visit. And then we get pushback on that. You know, the other capitalist is like, well, China isn't communist. It's actually very much capitalist. And there's other reasons why they don't want to go to visit. You know what I mean? It's so stupid, right? And this is the problem, in that the communists have to provide a unified front and can't contradict each other, but the capitalists can be like directly contradicting each other in the same 5 minutes, 2 minutes, right? Just spewing out talking points. And it's just chill, right? It's just chill. It's fine.
Also, just point to the fact that they're super low on the HDI. Their GDP per capita is like $12,000. The U.S. GDP per capita is $70,000. So, like, I would say in terms of like economic success, we're definitely doing way better.
Again, these are all metrics to analyze capitalism. You know what I mean? GDP is a metric to analyze capitalism. So, of course, if we say China is communist, if we concede that point, it's like, yes, China is communist. Of course, they're not going to be like directly, you know, beating America in capitalist metrics. They just won't, right? That's not what you have to look at when determining success under communist countries. You don't. Because the GDP in America may be high, but again, there is a concentration of wealth in the hands of the ultra wealthy, the 1%, right? And I don't know if we're ever going to, because like this question is conceding that America is powerful now, with not even acknowledging the fact that America as it currently exists is not good for the majority of Americans. Majority. It's not. Right? There's millions of people who are homeless, who experience food insecurity, who are unemployed, who can't afford a house, who are one bill away or one medical emergency away from bankruptcy, right? From having no savings. But that is just sort of like not considered because, oh, we have high metrics such as like GDP. You feel me? Oh, we have higher median income, or what have you. Even though all the things that I just said are wholesale true, right? Because the point of communism, right? The point of advocating for communism or a socialistic a standard for America is to address the problems that the majority of Americans face. You know what I mean? That's the point. That's the goal. And we aren't even arguing that fact. We're instead arguing like just like random things at this point. You feel me? Like, oh, China's GDP is 12,000 per capita. How do you respond? Instead of, can you address the homeless veterans that are currently like, you know, went into the military to, you know, provide some level of stability, came out with PTSD, can't get a job? Can you address them? Can you address the children, the 1 in 3 who experience food insecurity? Can you address the disparity between wealth in Black and white households? Can you address the rise of homelessness? Can you address the unemployment rate skyrocketing? Can you address the inequality between or the two-tiered system we have for immigrants in this country? You know, things that need to be addressed. And it's just sort of like, nope, China bad. You feel me? The conversation always revolves or devolves down to China bad. And it's so dumb.
In terms of how we see immigration into this country, of course, we're American. We're only going to see the American viewpoints of this. China has immigration. People do try to cross the China's border all the time. We're all humans. Everybody's doing the same thing around the world. I would say what you're seeing is a perspective issue. I would love to break it down even more and talk to you about the massive amounts of CIA missions that have gone through Latin America to destabilize those countries, but just at that point. To what you're saying, judging a country by how much the wealth...
I'm actually very glad that he's here, in that he tries to address every point that though they just gotta like spew out. Right? He's true. That's what I just said. He's correct.
Wealthiest people in their country profit. What you're saying, judging a country by how much the wealthiest people in their country profit in their company, we both know what GDP means. It's a bad faith way to really exploit
What about
country.
HDI?
Yeah.
Human Development Index.
And how
so
is that
it's
made?
measured by things like health, income. It's the UN standard for like how well an economy is doing.
I want to point out another disparity. 2 times, Jubilee has put up context in this video so far, the 5 minutes of this video. And both 2 times, it was for the capitalist side, right? They didn't put up any context when he said, you know, there's a plethora of CIA missions in Latin American countries in order to destabilize the regions, which are documented phenomenon that the CIA has released its own documents saying has happened, right? They didn't put any context for that. But the context is, you know what I mean? To help further the point of the capitalists. Like, thanks, Jubilee. Love you so much appreciated. I'm already tired.
At that point, perfect. Healthcare, we rank 37 in the United States. Cuba ranks 2-1.
Oh God!
Hold
on.
Wait.
Hold on.
Cuba
We gotta
ranks
take a
what?
step back.
Cuba ranks what? Wait, I really want to engage.
They've been
with this.
number 1 and number 2 and hovered through those spots.
According to Cuba.
Cuba uses their
according to the
doctors.
Commonwealth Fund. According to the Commonwealth Fund and the
Wait. Cuba is 83 on the HTI. They use their doctors like slaves because 90% of the profit goes to the state.
Oh, these are it's like brainworms. Brainworms. Here's what happens, chat. I want to explain to you the rhetorical devices, right? This person brought up HDI, said, didn't say where America ranked, right? He says, well, okay, like what does that entail? He says things like health, income, or whatever. And he says, okay, in health, right? According to the UN, the US ranks number 37, right? In health, while Cuba ranks number 2 in health, right? This person then switches back from the health rating from the UN, disregards that, and says Cuba ranks 83 in HDI, which is a metric that, whatever you want to think of that, sure, I don't really care. It doesn't matter, right? But he switches from a metric talking specifically about health, right, to a metric talking about, you know, Human Development Index, which encompasses things like income as well, right? It is a deflection from the actual point of health in the U.S. is bad. And then he immediately switches from that, so you can't address that point at all, to say Cuba uses its doctors like slaves. Cuba is enslaving its doctors because 90% of the profits go to the state. Like, it's just, he's running the Cuban medical system, having 90% profits go to the state. There's no medical profiteering in Cuba. Yeah, like, you can't, like, like, if you're a pharmaceutical company, you're producing medicines, you can't, like, spike the price of like, insulin 300% to sell it at point of distribution to profit for yourself. You know what I mean? Like generally, there should not be profit involved in the medical system at all, or healthcare system at all. What if I dispute the GDP and then change to HDI? Yeah, exactly. He's like, what about HDI? Huh? What about that? That's all they do. That's literally all they do. It's brainworms.
TI. They use their doctors like slaves because 90% of the profit goes to the state.
They literally traffic their doctors. When
doctors
George W.
get very
Bush
little.
opened up a program to let Cuban doctors escape because they were trafficking them and making them go do these PR campaigns in other countries to give health care, 7,000 people immediately came to the U.S. At one meeting, 2 doctors passed notes to other doctors they were on a hospital set with and said, kidnapped. This is propaganda.
So I appreciate the emotional examples, 100%.
It's not emotional. You can talk to the No Borders Sovereignty organization that works to get healthcare professionals out of there.
You look like the nicest person in this room. I would
Well,
hope you let
I'm
me
trying to
finish
get
my
this point
point,
across
then
too.
down and answer. I
But
got
please
you.
go.
Well, I've been told that fear is happening in Cuba. They're doing this super scary thing with Cuba, which is great. I would love facts. So
I'm giving you facts
in terms of
about
the
doctors fleeing the country, and also about how they're having to
How's that
ration
how's that supposed
basic
to make it?
antibiotics in their
Hannah, you look like
hospitals.
the
Yeah, we've got them under an embargo,
Not
obviously.
since, no,
wait,
medical
this
things are
has
excluded since
nothing to do-
1992.
That's not true.
Wait,
That's
wait,
been
That is
disproven
true.
by multiple
Eddie, how far
studies.
back?
This year
It
during
hasn't.
COVID, Cuba made their own COVID vaccine because the U.S. pharmaceutical company used intellectual property laws to prevent them from making this using our vaccine recipe.
And this is the problem, right? Like how freaking 11 minutes of this video is dedicated to not about like the underlying reason why so many Americans are now looking towards a different economic system other than capitalism to free themselves from the burden and the shackles of 9 to 5. You know what I mean? None of this is addressing the actual problems with capitalism. It's like address this socialist project and the problems with it. And if you don't, then your entire economic system is incorrect and invalid, and capitalism is the best, and it's awesome and it's amazing. We're the greatest. You know what I mean? It's so stupid. It's so dumb. And the entire premise is just like, it's false. You know what I mean? The entire premise is based on a skewed like foundation. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. You know what I mean? Also, yeah, he didn't let the black guy finish, which is crazy. Which is crazy. Like, you know what I mean? They just keep cutting him off because like you can't even have a conversation about like they're enslaving their doctors. They're enslaving their doctors. Like all the doctors are escaping and leaving, right? Without understanding that, like, yeah, Cuba gave hearing aid to people that needed it. Meanwhile, you can't afford to hear. Yeah, Mr. Beast had to come in and be like, I'm going to pay for the surgery or the surgery, the medical procedure of like 1,000 people because it's so simple and basic, but people can't afford it in this country. You feel me? Like but in America, you have people dying on their deathbeds. You feel me? At home because they can't afford to go to the hospital. You have people who are, in debt perpetually, forever, for one visit or trip to the hospital. Thousands of dollars in debt, right? That they can't pay off because they don't have a savings, right? And to sit there and be like, and all while that's happening, the pharmaceutical and companies and developers, not even developers, right? The producers of the technology, because they just buy the patents, are seeing record profits, right? Millions and millions and millions of dollars in profits, while the American people are suffering over the high cost of like albuterol, or high cost of insulin, or the high cost of but now like rationing their Adderall or ADHD medication. You feel me? Like there's we have somebody who got sent to jail because I don't actually remember what it was, but like for like hiking up the price of the medication that he bought. He just bought it and he's hiked the price by like thousands of %. You know what I mean? It's so dumb. Hey, Michael Moore took 9/11 survivors to Cuba for medical treatment, where Crying when they heard it was free.
So they created their own, but they couldn't get syringes into the country because of the embargo. Because how are you supposed to get metal when you're on a tiny island country and you're surrounded by the U.S. military?
Eddie, I want to
you
ask
can't
you a
get
few
any
questions.
trade in
I want
or
to
out.
ask you a few questions, Eddie. How far back do you think the embargo is affecting Cuba?
How long back do I think the embargo? Probably since it's been put on.
Oh, really?
But I think when we look at
no, let me respond real quick. In 1960, the USSR became the largest trading partner with Cuba. They started paying more for Cuba's
sugar. Yeah.
They started buying all of Cuba's sugars and paying more than the United States was paying. Fidel Castro is on record saying that the embargo had no effect on Cuba at all. So we can presume that up until 1991, when the USSR collapsed, that it didn't have an effect. So to claim that the embargo is affecting Cuba.
And I think when we look at this is the. Can I make a point? Because this is a point I wanted to make for a long time. When we look at countries like Cuba and China, I think it's more important to judge them based on what they had before the revolution. Before Cuba had a revolution, nobody had access to healthcare. They were working on slave plantations that were dominated by Western multinational corporations.
This is true.
China before the revolution, yes, there were famines during the era of Mao. There were far more famines before Mao came to power and before China was able to industrialize and get to the point today where they're now one of the most powerful countries on earth. In the 1950s, the U.S. was already industrialized. China had to do that. They were a semi-feudal country in extreme poverty. And in just 70 plus years, they've become this economic superpower. That is through central economic planning and, yes, allowing some of those private markets in.
That's by undercutting the U.S. on labor because they don't actually have to pay people very much. They don't have to pay them based on their values, so they can make people come over there.
Oh, no shot. Is she saying that in America you are paid based upon the value you provide? There is no way that that is a point that she is making under capitalism. There's not. I do not believe she said with a straight face that in the U.S. we pay people based upon the labor that they provide. Because, again, we're getting very, it's like, we're getting far away from, the theoretical standpoint of, what it means, what capitalism means and what communism means, theoretical basis. But, capitalism on a theoretical basis and in practice as well. But, in a foundational level is you are not paid based upon the labor you provide. I hope somebody pushes back on this. But you create labor as workers, right? You create or you utilize labor to create a commodity. That commodity is sold, and only a portion of that sale comes back to those who provided their labor to create that commodity, and another portion of that sale is extracted and given to a capital owner and given to shareholders and given to executives who didn't provide their labor to create that commodity for every commodity, right? That is foundationally the way that capitalism operates.
They say that I'm good enough.
You know what I mean? So to sit here and act like the U.S. Values labor and they pay people based upon give people the full amounts of value they provide with their labor it's stupid. Pimp Weasel, thank you for the follow. But these are nobodies too, which is kind of crazy. She was on Fox News. Of course she was, bro. Just was even the point of giving you a specific question to everyone on topic immediately? Yeah. Because the question it's stupid. It's a dumb question. The video where she rejected a debate with V, not a date. Was companies choosing to move to cheaper labor markets is a capitalist free market at work? Exactly. Companies being exporting their labor to countries, not even just China, right? To Taiwan. You feel me? To other Asian countries as well that aren't considered traditionally capitalist, so they can pay less for the labor is free market capitalism, right? It is just functionally. Bangladesh like by a freaking deck. Vietnam, of course, China as well to a certain extent. But yeah, it's so dumb.
And work far cheaper, have their companies there, and then we buy their products cheaper. We are propping up China's economy, and we've been really stupid with our own policies when it comes to that. And also, we are constantly hamstringing ourselves.
But like that's like foundationally what capitalism is based on. We are propping up China's economy. What does that mean, right? Because when I hear that, to me, it means that China is subsidizing the American people's economy with this transaction, with this situation, with this system, right? Because the companies are taking their record profits by exporting their labor to developing nations, taking their record profits and spending that money in America. So this GDP that these capitalists love so much is propped up by, right, the economy of developing nations and the labor that they are providing, which is a knock against the U.S. Is it not? U.S. isn't powerful because they do capitalism very well. It's powerful because they get to subsidize their economic, practices with developing nations and use their record profits to prop up the GDP of their nation. Not even just the U.S. Canada does it as well. The UK and other European countries do it as well. All the Western capitalist nations do this.
Because our government keeps regulating our economy more, getting more involved, tying its hands, so that they are outpacing us, plus all the money we're spending on war.
What? You can't hold both of the positions, that the U.S. is bad for regulating the economy and tying the hands of corporations to allow China to outpace us, but simultaneously say that companies are going like overseas, exporting their labor overseas to see record profits. You can't have, those are directly contradictory positions. They cannot operate in tandem. They cannot operate in tandem.
Instead of actually like letting people keep their taxes and invest in more things. So they are playing us right now. The U.S. has been really foolish, but it's not because communism works. They were starving up until 1979.
Well, let's look at exactly what they did.
Let's
look at exactly what they did when they opened up trade. They opened up special economic zones where multinational corporations could come in, but they said you're only allowed to do things as long as it's in line with the party and as long as it's in line with the government's central plans. I mean, to say that China is just capitalist, full stop, or that all their successes come from capitalism
I'm saying that they were
is pretty
starving
ridiculous.
before capitalism.
Again, they are directly contradicting each other. She's saying China's not capitalist. He's saying China is communist. He's saying China is like a quasi-capitalist nation that utilizes free markets in order to bolster up their economy. Which is funnily enough, is the most correct assumption of what China is. China does utilize a free market capitalist principles in certain ways, like Eddie is saying, in order to grow their economic standing to feed their people, because the alternative is like they are continued to be put in a situation like Venezuela, like Cuba, and face embargoes and sanctions and aren't able to fully grow their economy, because you are not allowed to participate in the global economy so long as you're not abiding by the rules of capitalism as Western nation allows. You know what I mean? Where they be without resource extraction and exploitation in Southern Hemisphere. Exactly.
They were starving under feudalism.
Hannah and Cam come in here with the guns. They got the fire. They know it. They're ready for this. Who is we? When you say we, who's in this we? Because we did this, because we did that. Who is this
again,
metaphorical we?
Because the U.S. government is not a capitalist government, and we have to be strict about terms here. Capitalism is a system and an economy. The government can either uphold...
Okay. She's stupid. But she's not necessarily wrong. My problem is... No, she's saying like the government itself is not capitalism, which is... In a way, true, right? Because capitalism is an economic system, and it can uphold capitalism or it cannot uphold capitalism, right? The problem is that that is never extended to communist countries, right? She said that China is communist, but the U.S. isn't capitalist because the government itself is not capitalism, right? which is just like there's a contradictory positions. You can say that the U.S. government is not a capitalist organization because it itself is not an entity of economic principle in the same way that companies are, in that the government has to either choose to uphold capitalist principles or to uphold socialist or communist principles in nature, right? Which would not necessarily be wrong, right? The government tomorrow could nationalize all industries, right? Put them under control of the worker ownership, fire all executives, CEOs, shareholders, and again, nationalize the industries, right? And then start to uphold more socialist values. Still wouldn't make the U.S. a socialist country per se, right? Or the U.S. government a socialist government. It's just a government that upholds socialist values. So she's not entirely wrong there. My problem is that this grace never extends to like actual, like, you know, communist countries.
Or they can impede it. Our government is constantly impeding it. So when the government comes in and tells you, you can trade with this person, you can't trade with that person, that is the government, which is...
The U.S. government is capitalist via the Federal Reserve. Fair. I'll give you that.
We have a representative government doing that. Is that something I, as a capitalist, want to see them doing?
An American citizen.
No,
we
I
are
don't.
American citizens,
but we are American citizens, and so they are supposed to be representing our interests. If we're going to talk about what we're doing as a country, yes, like that is a huge part of it. And I also want to go back to communism, because when you talk about some of these countries that people often call democratic socialist countries.
Okay, but like, you can't just be like, we're not talking about capitalism right now. We are here to talk about communism. Because the debate isn't like, why communism bad? The debate is capitalism versus communism. So you can't just like skate around talking about the problems with the current economic system. You feel me? You can't. You can't just be like, all right, enough talking about capitalism, bro. Because we're going to get to the bad stuff of capitalism. We need to talk about communism more.
They rank higher on the economic freedom index than we do. That means they are more capitalist in their economy.
And I don't think those
than
countries
we
are socialist, to be
and
clear.
so I just want to make sure we're defining terms, because communism is the centralized control and ownership of production of companies.
That's not what communism is. She just described communism as capitalism, as a monopolistic capitalism, right? That's what she just described a monopoly. That's all she described. She described an economic system where the government is the sole monopoly and not communism, right? That's not even like the basic definition of communism, where communism is a stateless, classless, moneyless society. You know what I mean? She just said what communism is just like super capitalism. You know what I mean? That's why it was just, she's like, communism is actually just capitalism, but like a specific kind of capitalism. Like, come on.
Point I'm trying to make. Like, we have to talk about actual systems that are communist if we're going to debate this.
Define socialism to me, it feels just very demeaning.
Wait, are we doing communism?
How do you define it then? Because I'm hearing things called socialism that aren't.
But the prompt is communism.
I guess, like, in terms of...
Well, why don't we just skip over that, bro? I want to see them define capitalism. Also, yeah, nerd, bro. But the prompt is communism.
Communism and capitalism, both are ideal states that don't fully work by themselves. But I do think and capitalism, both are ideal states that don't fully work by themselves. But I do...
What? I'm confused what she's saying. Is she saying like it won't, like communism won't work because of like human nature? Like I'm confused in like what the point here is. You know what I mean? 'Cause I did not expect somebody who's like on the communist side to be like, yeah, communism can never work. It's you know, it like capitalism is an ideal state that doesn't work by itself. Like what do you mean by that? What's the takeaway here? You feel me?
I think capitalism is more pessimistic versus communism more optimistic. In an ideal state, if everyone actually worked hard and they wanted to contribute to a society to make it better, I think communism would work.
Everybody cares. I think
They
you guys
don't.
are well
That's the
intentioned.
problem. You could teach them though.
Giving
Like that was like nothing. You know what I mean? That was nothing. That was a full 10 minutes of absolute nothing getting done. You feel me? And like I don't know.
people government aid makes them lazy.
Well, okay.
Getting government aid makes you lazy. A great example of that is Elon Musk.
Okay.
The amount of government aid the X Foundation gets in order to pursue inventions that don't work. How often did you hear about that tunnel? Elon Musk is just one example of many different CEOs, multi-corporations who get government aid to be able to do these things just because they have the net worth.
Yeah, I agree with you on this. I hate corporate welfare. I think it's the biggest perversion of capitalism out there. It doesn't work. It's trying.
Oh, okay. She's quite literally like free market Andy. She's like, no regulation. No, she's an ANCAP. That's what she is. She is an anarcho-capitalist. She's an anarcho-capitalist. That's what it is. I think Ty Lopez is just like there. I don't think Ty Lopez really understands anything. I think he's just there for like name recognition. And like, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. I think this is like a theory nerd who's like in 9th grade, he heard like his like history teacher talking about like Marx, and he's like, oh, this Marx guy is stupid. I know better. And he's like, then we went home and Googled why capitalism is better than communism, and that's his entire personality. She's just like an ANCAP.
Record is terrible, and it actually is the government coming in and picking winners and losers, and it very rarely goes in favor of small businesses, which is what most business in the U.S. actually is owned by. But the way it makes people lazy is not necessarily because they're bad people. It's because you have fiscal cliffs. You get this amount of welfare if you make under $24,000 a year.
Again, this is the third context provided by Jubilee in favor of the capitalists.
You make $25,000 a year, your benefits drop off. So it actually disincentivizes people from moving up, working harder, taking on more jobs. And it's a terrible structure.
I completely agree with that from a perspective of it creates animosity. If there was a system saying that you couldn't use a certain government aid program that you're already paying taxes to just because you make this amount, wouldn't you have animosity for those people below you?
The cliffs are, I think.
And he's referring to like, more like middle class, like animosity towards lower class, or working class people, right? In that when you are like a you know, middle class, petite bourgeois, you know, capitalist or whatever, you're getting aid. Be like, hey, why do these poor people below me get so much more money than I get, even though I'm working harder than them, right? But I think that comes from a place of like, you're a bad person for thinking that, right? Why do you think that they don't deserve that money? You feel me? They are worse off than you, and they deserve to have a leg up, a hand up. It's called equity. You feel me?
More so specifically referencing like situations where people are taking in welfare and it compensates for their like lack of income, and then they get a promotion or something and they lose the welfare and they're worse off than they were before they lost the welfare and prior to the promotion. You build that state dependency and it de-incentivizes people to like,
no, that's just a bad welfare system. You know what I mean? And that doesn't mean welfare wholesale is bad and that government aid makes them lazy. It's that the welfare system is bad. If you are making if you're sitting here and you're making I don't know, 30K before welfare, and then after welfare, on welfare, you're getting, you don't get this amount of money, but on disability or on welfare, you're hitting $30,000, right, without a job. You get a job that pays you $22,000, right, and you've now found yourself in a deficit of $8K a year. All right, this is the concept that they're talking about. That is a bad welfare system, and it needs a restructuring, not lowering this amount. So instead of making 30K on welfare, you instead make, right, 10K, so that when you do get that increase, you actually have an increase of plus 12K. It's not going to change the fact of when you're here, you're still only making $22,000, right? No matter what the welfare program is, it's not changing this. That when you get hired and paid, you're getting paid $22,000. It doesn't matter what you I make before on welfare, whether it's 10K or it's 30K, right? The solution to this is not to, you know what I mean, remove the 30K and be like, all right, good luck on 10K, everybody. When you get a job, you're going to be really happy about that extra 12K, right? This is going to motivate you to get a job. No, the solution is to go to these companies and say, you can't pay these people 22K. It's unfair. It doesn't make any sense. You got record profits last year. You got to pay them 44K at least, right? You got to pay them 44K at least. That's the minimum wage that we are setting. So now it doesn't matter if they're making 10K or they're making 22K or they're making, 30K. There is going to be an increase to go here, right? So the solution to this is not to remove the welfare system as it currently exists. The solution to this is to raise the wages, because it's not like the money is not in the economy already. The money is in the economy, except it's congregated into the hands of the 1%. So it's like this. This is Bezos right here. Still not to scale, because it's probably smaller than this is, right? You see this little dot down there, Chet? Down there, that little tiny dot, right? This 1 pixel, that's how much money you're making. And Jeff Bezos gets to make all that money, right? It was like $200 billion. So, what you do as the government is you cut this here. You say, all right, now we're doing a little bit of redistribution of wealth. You got like 150 billion now. Have fun. And then you bring up everybody else to there, maybe. That's the way to fix the problem, right? It's not to take your hands. See, this red here, that's the government. Miss ANCAP, that's government intervention. That's government coming in and saying, you can't sit here and free market yourself into hundreds of billions of dollars while we have homeless people on the streets right now. We have people who are working at your jobs and they are making pennies in comparison. We're going to come in and make sure that you are paying the people who got you this money adequately. That's why government intervention is necessary. That's why government aid is necessary. So when they don't do this, because Bezos is not going to be happy about this, he won't do this, the government can come in and be like, okay, if you're not going to do this, we're actually going to tax you, right, this amount of money, and then we're going to take this and give that back to the people below. So we're going to do it on your behalf. So the net result is the same. I don't care if the government comes out tomorrow and is like, we're setting the minimum wage at $22 an hour. If you don't like that, leave and you can't participate in our economy anymore. But that's what we're doing. Or they're saying, hey, we're going to tax you, Jeff Bezos, $50 billion. And we're going to give that money to all the Amazon employees that exist. Right? I don't care how it happens. The net result is the same. This money, this overhead that he shouldn't have gotten in the first place because capitalism is inherently exploitative, is going back to the workers.
Work up the corporate ladder in their companies because they're receiving aid from the government.
I think also we have to say what makes people work hard, not just what makes people lazy. Because I think that's the problem. You look at government welfare, it is essentially keeping people trapped. It keeps them trapped in cycles of poverty. We actually
it lets them survive. That's what it is. It doesn't go far enough, but it lets them survive. But the question we should be asking is, why should people have to work for their survival? That's the question I would ask if I was here. Why should people have to work for survival? Why? For what reason? Right? Rich people don't. Even if you think that Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, works extraordinarily hard, his kids don't. Right? Biden's kids don't. Obama's kids don't. Bill Gates' kids don't. Even if you think that these people who've earned their money, right, work extraordinarily hard, their children do not, fundamentally. Why do they deserve those billions of dollars when they've done no work? When somebody who's breaking their backs, right, working 4 jobs, deserves, what, pennies? You feel me? Why should they be required to scrub your toilets for pennies? Why do they not, by consequence of being born into a world where they didn't ask for, be entitled to enough resources to survive? And we have those resources. Did we not just concede that America is the most powerful country on the planet? Did we not just have a conversation about how America is the greatest country on the planet? We have the resources. We have the money. We have the food. We produce the food. We have the space. Why is it such a difficult thing to understand or to acknowledge, right? That just by consequence of being born into this world, you should have your material conditions satisfied. And we understand it to a certain extent. This is why public school is free. You know what I mean? But Miss ANCAP here wants it to be, oh, that's government intervention. No public school, please. Anyone who walked on foot for Venezuela deserves that money more than those parasites. True.
Before the great welfare deal under LBJ was pushed through, we had a
4. This is the 4th time. They're quoting Wikipedia. The 4th time they have issued context for the capitalist side and 0 for the communist side.
Larger rate of people coming out of poverty and moving up in this country. And then when we implemented these programs, that has stagnated ever since. And we can see that hasn't worked.
Just help me out here real quick. So when you say it doesn't work, what didn't work?
We have not seen a decrease in the rate of people who are in poverty. And part of this is based on the education system. Part of this is based on different...
Because of LBJ.
Yes, these programs that came in, the welfare. I don't know this because of it. I think it's stagnated work that was being done.
Well, that's the conversation. Is that not the conversation, chat? Are we not having a specific conversation about giving people government aid makes them lazy? Is that not the conversation that we're having? So why is she like, okay, well, let me understand this, right? Are you saying because of the government aid, people have stayed in poverty or are lazy, are not incentivized to work harder? He's like, well, not because of it. I'm sure there's a lot of factors. You know what I mean? Like, that's not the question. It's so stupid.
As somebody who works in public policy, that's what I'm interested in.
She doesn't work in public policy, dog. She's a freaking podcaster. Where's she at? She's a podcaster. That's what she is.
What works?
There are cases where I think people are incentivized to work less hard in order to keep their income under a certain level so they can collect a certain amount of government money, which in that specific case, then yes, I guess it does incentivize laziness. But also, if you look at government programs like Medicare and Medicaid, they're some of the most highly approved of programs in the country. And when you make a welfare program universal, when you make it so it applies to everybody, it basically becomes politically invincible because nobody is going to argue for their grandma's health care to be taken away. And we have a problem in this country where 45,000 people are dying every
first time, baby.
Single year because they don't have access to basic health insurance. And I think if we were to nip that in the bud and nationalize those giant pharmaceutical companies and make sure that healthcare is provided to everyone, we would actually stimulate a lot of innovation, a lot of labor, and a lot of hard work in this country because people would be less bogged down by medical bills and would be more healthy in general.
So without a market, if the pharmaceutical industry specifically is nationalized, how does the state set prices effectively?
It'd be free. How are the prices set effectively now? How is it effective when currently you can buy a patent for a life-saving medication or life-saving drug and then charge 500 times what the cost to produce that drug is for that life-saving medication? How is that an effective way to set prices? How is that successful under capitalism?
Before you get into that point, did you want to say something?
Yes, please.
There you go.
I was gonna add, I guess I lived in China for 8 years and 10 years in the US, so I have the divide between the two. I guess in China, generally speaking, it's really safe, and there's a lot more equality in certain areas. In terms of support from the government, it is easier to get healthcare, 100%, and also I think certain societies use communism well, and it can be used well to create, I guess, more equality. I think capitalism ultimately creates inequality.
True. So one thing I was gonna say, you have to be careful. There's an old saying, we went out of the fire into the frying pan. The question is, under what system do you not get the guys at the top becoming super wealthy? Because
the system in which you don't allow them to hoard their wealth. It's very, very simple.
Stalin and Mao Zedong, these
Chavez
people
or
become
Maduro?
Chavez. Okay, Castro, this man is no angel. The question becomes,
Wait, Castro? Nobody said Castro, bro. Why we pulled up Fidel Castro for? He said Chavez and Maduro. He's like, bro, but Castro, oh, bro. Bro, Castro sucks. Back to Cuba bad. But it's pretty funny. And then he can't argue for yeah, Ty is a known scammer. This is true. He got in the video because of name recognition. He's also stupid. You feel me? I feel as though even on the capitalist side, at least the ANCAP person did the reading. You know what I mean? At least the debate bro guy with the Hitler stash, at least he's done the reading. I don't believe Ty did the reading. You know what I mean? I don't believe Ty even knows what he's talking about here. He's not even well versed in the talking points. He's just bro, guys, communism bad, ain't that right? That's the point of capitalism, inequality, one person being over another. Yeah, the entire purpose of capitalism is because you have to talk about exploitation. You cannot talk about capitalism without talking about exploitation, because exploitation is inherent to capitalism, right? Because what causes the inequality and what causes there to be super wealthy people and super poor people, people with nothing and people with everything, is exploitation. Because it's not like the people with nothing aren't working, right? A majority of the people who don't have a permanent stable home, who are houseless, are working, have full-time jobs, and go to those jobs daily, right? So it's not like they're not working hard. So you have to understand and acknowledge that the inequality comes from somewhere. So when they're doing that work, where is the money that they are creating for the company going? Because you can't look at the profits that McDonald's is making and the wages of the poorest employees. You add up all of the wages of all of the employees, and you're like, huh, this is only like 20% of all of the profits McDonald's made. Where is that 80% going? Oh, it's totally fine. You know what I mean?
One dampens our greed in a way that...
Again, this is a human nature argument. Say it. I think humans are inherently greedy because you are, Ty Lopez. Mr. I sell courses, Ty Lopez. Right? Mr. I sell NFTs, Ty Lopez. You can't talk about greed. You can't.
But the most people.
Yeah, I don't even think it should be that. It should just be which system is more effective at distributing resources and helping people have good outcomes.
And China has abolished poverty, and we have rampant poverty.
China hasn't abolished
yes,
poverty.
Yes, they have, according to the World Bank.
There's 300.
Over the past 40 years, the number of people in China with the income below $1.9 per day, the international poverty line as defined by the World Bank in tracking extreme poverty have fallen by close to 800 million.
Homeless
but there's
people
more
in
people
China.
though, in ratio.
He said that he abolished poverty.
They did
There's
Google it. The
300,000
World
homeless
Bank wrote a
people.
full article on it.
National
They have
Center of
abolished
Biotechnology
relative
Information.
poverty.
When China was pure communistic, 45 million people starved to death eating bark and dirt and leaves. And it's hard.
I'm just gonna... leave this here. Which is also kind of funny because I go back to this.
Resources and helping people
And
have good
there's
outcomes.
and China has abolished poverty, and we have rampant poverty.
China hasn't abolished
Yes,
poverty.
they have, according to the World Bank.
There's 300,000 homeless.
300,000 homeless people in China. 582,000 homeless people in America. I'm sorry, but like when you even just compare the raw numbers, it doesn't even matter what you think. China has been more effective in eliminating homelessness. Right? Yeah, and China has more double our population. So you just have to look at the numbers.
But there's more people though, in ratio.
He said that he abolished poverty.
They did
There's
Google
Again, he's like,
The World
homeless
Bank wrote a
people.
full article on it. They
National
have
Center of
abolished
Biotechnology
relative poverty.
Information.
When China was pure communistic, 45 million people starved to death eating bark and dirt and leaves. And it's hard to know, is it doing better, all the things you like? Are you sure that's from the communist side, the Mao Zedong side?
I would argue
or is that
it's
from the capitalist side?
I would argue it's definitely the free
Yeah.
market side.
Yeah.
I also just want to push back on one thing real fast.
Are we still going to stick with the China thing? Because
Well,
that
I
one,
just wanna
there's
say
so many
it's-
great points
Yeah.
here.
We need a
that, like, we need
prompter over
to
here.
I know.
focus. You know what I mean?
It's crazy to me to hear somebody say China's safer though, and like you can literally be disappeared from the streets, like even your celebrities.
dog, the cops just shoot people indiscriminately here. This is stupid. This is a stupid conversation because this is not capitalism versus communism. This is China versus America. Like everything they say, bro. Like there's so many homeless people in China. There's more homeless people in America. You can be disappeared in the streets in China. We literally saw black vans pulling up in people during the BLM protests and throwing people in there during in Portland specifically. The police are out here shooting people indiscriminately, unarmed people, and are being acquitted for it daily. What are you talking about? What are we talking about? We're acting like CIA black sites don't exist, but these same people who they know they exist, but they're like, it's actually good because it makes us safer. You feel me? Less terrorists. When America does something, they're like, yes, please, we need more of this for safety. China does the exact same thing. It's literally like a dictatorship. There's no coherent policy here. There's no coherent through line here. It's just saying when China does it, it's bad. When America does it, it's good. And that's it. James, exactly, James. Exactly. Do people forget there were unmarked vans kidnapping people during the 2020 protests? Exactly. There was videos. I have to pull up a video now. June 27th, 2020, an article written by NPR. Federal officers use unmarked vehicles to grab people in Portland, DHS confirms. In the early hours of Wednesday, after a night spent protesting at, I'm not even going to try to pronounce that, County Justice Center, Mark O. Hatfield Federal Courthouse, Mark Pettibone and his friend Connor O'Shea decided to head home. It's been a calm night compared to the protests downtown. By 2 a.m., law enforcement hasn't used any tear gas, and with only a few exceptions, both Portland, Oregon Police Bureau and federal law enforcement officers have stayed out of sight. A block west of Chapman Square, Pettibone and O'Shea bumped into a group warning them of people in camouflage were driving around the area in unmarked minivans, grabbing individuals off the street. So that's terrifying to hear. They merely made it a half block when an unmarked minivan pulled in front of them. I see guys in camo, 4 or 5 of them, pop out, open the door. I was like, I don't know how you are or what you want with us. Federal law enforcement officers have been using unmarked vehicles to drive around downtown Portland and detain protesters since at least Tuesday. Personal accounts and multiple videos posted online show the officers driving at the people, detaining individuals with no explanation about why they're being arrested, and driving off. The tactic appears to be another escalation of federal force deployed in Portland city streets, as federal officials and President Trump have said they plan to quell nightly protests. Like, is there a video here? Or video? Oh, it's freaking... Can't even open up the video. But yeah, literally happened in 2020. So, yeah, this is what I was thinking of.
There's been fierce blowback and calls for an investigation after reports that federal officers are pulling Portland protesters into unmarked vans. The reports raise various questions. Among them, are the feds driving unmarked vehicles? The video suggests, yes, they are driving an unmarked van, which is not uncommon for federal law enforcement. But a former U.S. attorney for Oregon under the Obama administration says transparency is critical.
Look, it's just central for accountability that we know who's doing the arresting, who's being arrested, and what they're being arrested for.
Federal officers have spotted someone who committed a crime, then tracked them down elsewhere and made an arrest. And finally,
yeah, Mrs. You can be disappeared on the street in China.
Famous tennis players,
The
famous
FBI.
people. They are.
Shout out Julian Assange.
Shout out Julian Assange. But we are not incarcerating Julian Assange right now. We are trying to extradite him here for trial, which I'm opposed to.
We're doing our best. And he's been sitting in Belmarsh.
And I've spoken out with. I actually work with his brother on the campaign to get him freed. But what I'm saying is, we don't have political prisoners in the U.S. We don't.
her response is name every political prisoner. Name every single political prisoner at a CIA black site. If you can't do that, they don't exist.
Who are they? Who are they?
We
Edward
assassinate
Snowden.
them, yeah.
Like, why? Okay, you should respond. Name the ones in China. Name political prisoners in China. Like, it's so stupid to be like, we don't have political prisoners. And people are like, yes, we do. It was like, name them all. Like say black site doesn't exist. Like, what time it doesn't exist? Like, I mean, you could argue that the detainees in immigration camps are also political prisoners. But you know, what do I know? What do I know?
Okay,
Snowden.
Snowden. Who have we assassinated?
Jaleel Montekim
Fred Hampton.
was in jail for
We
70
did that?
years.
The government
He was a
did that?
Black
I'm
Panther.
fine with this. I detest it.
Yes. What? You are not qualified to be speaking about these issues if you're like, we kill Fred Hampton? The government? I didn't know.
FBI. I detest most policing agencies. I've done a ton of work on criminal justice
Well,
reform.
then you can't sit here and be like, we don't have political prisoners. Are they not an arm of the government? You can't sit here and be like, China is unsafe because you can be disappeared in an instant. And we have political prisoners. I mean, they have political prisoners, and then be like, but America doesn't. But then on the other hand, turn around and be like, oh, I don't like FBI or other policing agencies and stuff like that. If you work in criminal justice reform, then you would know this to be true.
It's fun. If I was a capitalist, I would love the FBI.
No.
I would love the FBI.
not.
Literally the vanguard of capitalism, 100%.
How's that?
It's one of the armed bodies of the state that protects the dictatorship of capital. Because
True.
ultimately, I mean, 90% plus of elections are decided by the candidate who raises the most money. The FBI is an armed body of the
though.
state.
You recognize that, right?
Capitalists would just be
Yeah,
against that.
well, you can say it's not
You can
real
say-
capitalism.
But it's wow, these people are so stupid. They're so dumb. It's capitalism. It's still capitalism. And this is why you can't have this conversation, bro. This is why you can't talk to these people, because every bad part of capitalism is not real capitalism. Exactly. Oh, something is bad? That's not real capitalism. That's cronyism. That's monopolyism or whatever. Like, that's not real capitalism. Real capitalism is laissez-faire, free market capitalism. That's it. There has to be no government intervention. There has to be no social safety nets. It has to be pure and straight capitalism, and then the world will be just fine, right? That's what they can do, right? That's what they can do. But it's just like, this is why you can't have conversations with these people. You can't. You can't. You can't. You can't attribute every bad thing that happened in a socialist project or a communist a socialist project or a communist country to be the fault of communism, but then every bad thing that happened under Western nations to be a problem with like something other than capitalism. Capitalism is only when things are good, apparently. It's so stupid.
But
No, I would say
capitalism
it's
has
not-
a tendency to
it's not
accumulate,
capitalism at all. Capitalism is an
concentrate.
economic system,
You can
not a
say
government.
Right, an economic system that concentrates wealth and power at the top, that incentivizes capitalists to accumulate
True.
capital, monopolize the markets.
True.
And this is simply the
True.
stage of capitalism that we exist in. When Iran tried to send oil tankers to Venezuela,
That's correct. That is correct. You can't say it's not real capitalism when the point that we are at now, right, is the logical conclusion to the real capitalism that we've had for the last 300 years, 400 years, to include slavery and such. You know what I mean? Like, there was like free market laissez-faire capitalism until the people with capital started to accumulate and started to buy political power. So now the government operates at the behest of them. The FBI and government agencies operate at the behest of them. So now we have monopolies that control like 90% of all the same goods. 6 companies for the most part. Right? And be like, oh, that's not capitalism. Well, how do you think we got here? How do you think we've arrived at this place to begin with? We've arrived at this place to begin with because of capitalism. And that is the problem with capitalism. It's so stupid.
the U.S.
I don't know the title of this video was an argument for the connection between communism and women empowerment. Like, how do they think they contradict each other? It probably comes later here. At some point, they probably have here. This section is women are more empowered in a communist society. Which again, these questions are stupid. Right? The first question that they asked was, would America be a more powerful country under communism? Not like capital, like all these questions center communism. You feel me? Except for only the rich benefit from capitalism, which again is a terrible framing of the question, and like no question of like, oh, capitalism is the best economic system for dealing with poverty. Oh, capitalism empowers people or incentivizes hard work or anything else. You know what I mean? It's always, does communism make people lazy? Will communism make America a powerful country? Will women be empowered under communism? You feel me? And then there's one question of only the rich benefits from capitalism, which is a crazy framing because nobody is arguing that only the rich benefit from capitalism. Is that primarily the rich benefit from capitalism. So even if you come here and you're arguing that, well, not only, but primarily, it'll be like, that wasn't the question, actually. The question was do only the rich benefit from capitalism? You have to argue for the question, sweaty. Like, that's what they can do because the framing on this is terrible. It's so stupid.
U.S. intercepted them with our military, took them back to Texas, and then gave that oil to U.S. corporations. How is that free trade? How is that the free market? An embargo are against.
Yeah, again, I don't have to defend the U.S. government to defend.
I would actually argue the U.S. government is a huge enemy of.
Again, they're like, I don't have to address that because that's the U.S. government doing, and they don't even have to address the actual problems with capitalism because they'd be like, that's the government and they're not doing real capitalism. They need to argue against communism as a in practice economic system that has been thwarted time and time again by the strength of the U.S. government, right? But then they get to argue on behalf of capitalism from a theoretical perspective. On how, in theory, if you do capitalism perfectly, 100% to a T, how it's written down on paper, everything will be great. And they never have to address the actual wrong or the actual ramifications of a system that accumulates wealth to the top and leaves the rest of us to die because, oh, well, in theory, that wouldn't happen. In theory, it's supply and demand would level itself out so that everybody will have a job. And in theory, right, goods, the price of goods will come down naturally because that's just how capitalism works. In theory, there will be no homeless people because if people can afford houses, then of course companies will have to lower their prices because that's how it will work in theory without ever having to actually address the fact that no, when you are in a capitalist system, specifically in a late stage capitalist system where these capitalist entities, where these corporations can buy government influence, can buy politicians and consolidate their wealth so that they can lead each other's prices, so that they can, basically fix each other's prices, then you don't have to address that. You don't have to address how these 10, real estate companies, for the most part, in every individual area can come together and set the price at a certain level and then buy up extra units and then hold those units for rent to perpetually have renting units so nobody can buy a house anymore. You don't even have to address that because that's not real capitalism. You don't even have to address the 500,000 homeless people as it currently exists, the tens of thousands of homeless children or children who are facing food insecurity, because you can say, oh, well, under real capitalism, the prices will come down naturally. And the fact that they haven't is because the government has interfered. And so it's not real capitalism. It's so stupid, which is why you can't have this conversation. You cannot have a conversation with a capitalist because they will just keep moving the goalposts. Everything that's wrong with capitalism is not real capitalism. It's just so dumb. It's so dumb.
Capitalism. We don't. And I want to define my view real fast because I think it matters. This is more my political view versus just my economic views. But I would say the only reason you need a government at all
is to protect private property. She's going to be like, you only need the government to protect private property. I guarantee she's going to say it because I've seen these weird ANCAP TikTokers say the exact same thing.
For three things under capitalism, and that is to uphold contracts. You need a court system.
Of course.
You do have to have a policing system so that people cannot harm other people's property or their person, and you need a national defense system. Now, what the U.S. has gone so far beyond that. We should have a defense. It should only be a government entity. You shouldn't have private companies coming in and profiting off of it, and it should be on guard to protect us.
That's capitalism, is it not? How do you, Miss ANCAP lady, explain the way that the government is going to start corporations or stop them from getting into the defense industry? Tell me how you expect the government to stop corporations from getting into defense. Where in the three things you say the government should be doing does it allow the power for the government to stop corporations from getting into defense? How? Tell me right now. Because if you have to acknowledge that if you will not allow corporations to participate in the defense industry, which they should not for the most part, right? If you allow corporations to participate in the defense industry, right? If you're not going to allow that, you have to have a way of enforcing that, which would come into government regulations, which you say is bad. She has a directly contradictory position in the last 5 words that she said, basically. And she's just allowed to hold that position because, oh, you know what I mean? It's just whatever. It makes me so angry. As of hello, thank you very much. Of course, ANCAP, right, libertarians can't have the dream reality without their property being protected. And again, they never say or explain where they think the government's role comes from, right? What makes you decide that the government as it's currently existing is operating in a way that is immoral, right? It doesn't make any sense, right? At all.
Existential threat, not waging war against other countries, not getting involved in all this interventionism we've been doing since Vietnam, completely opposed to that. But to sit here and say that that's capitalism,
it is.
That's the government.
It is. Why do you think they're fighting? Why do you think we are involving ourselves in these conflicts overseas? Just cause? For a little bit of jokey jokes? A little bit of fun? No. It's money. It's money. It's a game of dollary dues. Functionally. Whether it's oil, whether it's natural gas, whether it's diamonds and precious metals, whether it's cobalt, whether it's emeralds, it's money. Whether it's chocolate, whether it's fruits, it's money. We get involved in these conflicts overseas in order to get money. And what do we call the accumulation of capital? What do we call a system that incentivizes an accumulation of capital? Capitalism. Imperialism is an extension of capitalism. You cannot separate the two. It's impossible. You can't say capitalism is just free markets when the free markets dictate that when you garner enough money and monetary resources, what are they going to do with that? Even in your made up scenario in your mind of how you think capitalism will operate, what will happen when somebody free markets themselves into billions of dollars of net worth and they want more? Obviously, the natural conclusion is that they go to the entity that has full control over imperializing endeavors and pays them to get involved in ways that makes them more money. How is that different than regular capitalism? It's not. It's not. The U.S. benefits from imperialism monetarily. So of course they're going to do more imperialism. And corporations benefit from that imperialism. Look me in my eyes and tell me that Nestle, right, getting slave chocolate, and then the U.S. Supreme Court saying that's totally fine and they are allowed to do that, is not two arms of the same beast. It makes me so upset. It makes me so angry.
Government actually attacking capitalism, that's coming in and perverting our economic system, using our own tax dollars against us to do it.
Communism has caused more suffering than capitalism has.
Join our middle ground Patreon.
What? How did this get into a conversation about women empowerment?
To watch this exclusive prompt.
Women are more
What?
To watch this exclusive prompt.
women are more empowered in a communist society.
There's a really good book on this called Why Women Have Better...
You want Bunny to go first?
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm like, as a man, I'll be quick. There's a really good book by Kristen Godsey, who is a woman, called Why Women Have Better Sex Under Socialism and Other Arguments for Economic Independence, where she's very critical of the USSR and the former Soviet countries, but she says when women have economic independence, that equals...
intersectional leftists. That's why he's like, hey, you want the woman to speak on this first? Like, maybe just have the first talk on this one. And he was like, all right, this is my wheelhouse here. Nobody else but me can speak on this, obviously.
True freedom.
That's funny.
Freedom to leave an abusive relationship, which under capitalism, a lot of women are forced to stay in those relationships because of financial dependence on their husband. Women are discriminated against in the...
I hate that this question puts the direct onus on a communist society. You know what I mean? I would much rather have the question was like, women are more empowered in a capitalist society. You feel me? Because then you can talk about things like this without them being like under communism. You know what I mean? You know, under communism in China, they all have to wear the same uniforms. It's basically Sharia law. I bet they skipped that one because one of the capitalists tried to cite Nazis being victims of communism. Honestly, I would not be surprised if the Hitler Stash dude said that. He's turned his hat around and things give me some bad vibes. I think I saw his hat said black something coffee, and maybe it said Black Rifle Coffee, and so maybe that's why it's backwards. Who knows?
Free market system because they have babies. Women can get pregnant. So if you're a boss, who are you more likely to hire? A good worker who's a woman who might get pregnant for 9 months and have to go on maternity leave, or a man who's not going to get pregnant? It's just
It's actually a a talking point that people who argue against the gender pay gap say, right? A talking point that they oftentimes say is that, of course, women make less because they can get pregnant and they'd have to go on leave, and then like it's basically like an insurance that like if they get pregnant, then like the boss makes sure they have that money back, because that's why women should get paid less. You feel me? Like they say that like unironically.
A natural biological advantage to men in the free market. So if you provide economic independence for women, if you meet their needs, that in turn equals freedom.
I read the same exact book.
It's a good one.
The idea that only the man be able to get all the funds revenue for the family unit, the idea that it's a woman's job not only to work as well, but they'll also take care of the family at home. I can't think of a better example. Nuclear family was literally forced onto Americans. Like they had posters for it everywhere. Like, like how's that freedom?
So let's say the U.S. had 1 billion people. How would you do to limit population? This is a prime example, right? How would they do it? I don't think they'll do it any differently than one-child policy. Like, let's be realistic. If you gave the U.S. 1 million people, what are they gonna do?
They'd probably just let them starve.
Oh,
but in China, they're like,
the guy speaking before. Well, no, she let them speak. I will say she let them speak. She was like, "Nah, go ahead." I'm kind of confused. Maybe she's bringing up the one-child policy before the capitalists can get in here to like preemptively get ahead of it. But I just wouldn't have brought it up, honestly, because it's not necessarily specifically relevant. Because again, 2 of them don't think that China's freaking communist in the first place. So like you can't bring up China to be like, well, look at how China treats women. They can't even have as many babies as they want because you don't even think China's communist.
we got to ration goods to make sure we feed everyone.
Yeah. Circumstances were slightly different. They had to make choices, might not have been the best choices, but if given the same circumstance in the US, maybe they would have done something similar. Communism in China was truly communism in the beginning. So let's look at the beginning. So my mom was really young during that time, but at least she saw what women were empowered to do. At the time, yes, they took all resources and pulled it together and divided it equally, but women were truly equal in the beginning of China and Cultural Revolution. Women had the same rights as men, they did the same jobs as men, because more labor, the better, right? So everyone had the same roles, same jobs.
She was born during when China was that made capitalist head explode.
And there was true equality until capitalism or socialism and capitalism got introduced. Now in China, there's no equality. I truly think because more freedom, more trade. So in the beginning, when there was no corruption, it worked perfectly and everyone was equal.
I think we have a tendency to boil down, to disregard economic freedoms when we talk about freedoms, especially in the US. We break it all down to individual freedoms. What do you have the right to do? But in China, the retirement age for women right now is less than 60. Whereas in the US, it's been actually going up because economic conditions for working people have been getting worse. I mean, that is freedom, being able to retire and spend more time with your kids, less time slaving away, making your boss rich. That is true freedom.
Women have equal rights in the United States. You are allowed to do the same things that men do. Well,
wait. Cam. Wait. No, this isn't him. Wait. This is Cam Higbee. This is Cam Higbee. What is Cam Higbee doing here? This guy sucks. No, chat. I know this guy. He is an influencer. This is Cam freaking Higbee. You probably didn't know he was an influencer because he got banned on TikTok 2 years ago because he was being racist. My friend Victoria debated Cam Higbee. Okay, wait. Socials aren't in the description. This is Cam Higbee, chat. This is Cam Higbee. He was banned on TikTok. I know him. I knew I knew him. We went back and forth on TikTok, actually. Wait, hold on. That's insane. Okay, now I have to check my. He was in the. Oops. He was in the Republican Hype House. I responded to them all the time. Let me see if I can find one where I responded to him. They got banned a while ago. I might have deleted it. This guy.
You have never been forced to pick cotton. Your father has never been forced to pick cotton. Hell, your
Damn, buddy, let's have a conversation. When that comment said we had to pick cotton, he obviously wasn't talking about our generation. If that's a little bit hard for you to grasp, just imagine this. When Americans say we fought for independence,
Cam
we're not
Higbee.
talking about right now. It's this guy. It's this guy, chat. He thought that he can grow out his hair and grow that nasty Hitler mustache out and that nobody would recognize him. But I recognized him. As soon as his name was on the screen, I knew exactly who he was. But I have to send this to the group chat because it's hilarious. That's so funny. You really recognize an old face? I know that racist anywhere. He got banned for a reason. Also, he went to the border wall for some reason. Yeah, I don't think I responded to him again another time. It's just straight away because it was stupid. Yeah, no, that's the only time I responded to him. Oh, okay. So they're all influencers. And Ty Lopez, apparently, for some reason.
A lot of time what happens with like inequality is not actually
the market, right?
No, it's not the market. It's
yes, Jubilee brought on a literal scammer, a right-wing hack, and a lady who used anecdotes to be communist bad, who's also a failed podcaster. So, yeah. I get it. At its core, they're all influencers. There's no economists. There's no academics. There's no people who actually study this information. It's somebody who spent his time on Wikipedia reading why communism bad, and like an ANCAP lady who has a failed podcast, and then a scammer who knows nothing about communism.
difference in preference. Specifically with like, if you're looking at like income inequality, there are so many confounding variables that you have to look at when comparing income inequality. Where do you live? What's the cost of living? What kind of job do you do? What's the risk associated with your job?
Cam, when people say, he's saying income inequality and not the gender pay gap, because when we're talking about the gender pay gap, it's specifically referring to people who live in the same areas, who work in the same industries, and who do the same jobs. And there's a discrepancy between how much people get paid when you're a man and when you're a woman when doing those jobs. So you can't just be like, well, income inequality has multiple different factors, which of course they have multiple different factors, but that's not what the conversation is about, Cam.
Logically, markets and capitalism is the best resource, right? You kind of prioritize the best, right? But if that's the case, women could get pregnant, hence they have to take time off, hence they're
But that doesn't mean that they're not the best at something. Despite the fact that you can get pregnant, they can still be incredible.
But he's not listening. He's not listening. He's twisting her words, right? The point is that, sure, they can still be the best, but capitalism does not want the best. They want the most easily exploitable for the lowest price. That's what capitalism wants. Capitalism, even free market, laissez-faire, theoretical capitalism wants the person who will work the most amount of hours for the least amount of pay out of all of the candidates for a job. That's what they want, because then they can maximize profits, right? They don't care about people being skilled. They actually want the least skilled person who's still able to perform the duties of the job, as opposed to the most skilled person. There's a reason why my mom was telling me about this when she was looking for jobs, that she has a freaking she had a master's degree at the time, but now she has a doctorate, and a lot of companies are like, we don't want you, right? We don't want you, even though you are the most skilled, because we would have to pay you more, and we don't want to do that. You know what I mean? So you can't sit here and be like, well, capitalism wants people who are the most skilled. You feel me? When just functionally, even in practice, currently, right now, it's not true. I was going to ask, I know Midwestern Marks, but other two are on the communist side as well. Yes, this is Bunny, Toxic Bunny, who's a Twitch streamer. And another guy, his name popped up at some point. He's a TikToker. I follow him on TikTok. Oh, is that like a link tree? No, it's not. This is the guy. Hey Molombo. They're all influencers.
Skilled over other people.
But I think in capitalist societies, because of that time you need to take away, it's a risk.
There are disadvantages.
Like
there are biological disadvantages.
Financial risks. Is what
nobody's contesting that there's a major biological disadvantage for women. Women can also choose
Has there been
not
a
to get pregnant.
communistic country female leader yet?
Ty, there's not been a woman president. What are you talking about? That has nothing to do with the conversation as a whole. But like, there's not been a woman president yet. So like, what are you even trying to say? I don't get it.
Margaret Thatcher. New Zealand has one. Finland has one.
Thatcher?
Is there a communist?
Is he saying that, like, again, this is. We're going to take a break. We're going to take a break. I want to see. Is this still going on? Can we watch Ziwe now, maybe? I don't want to watch this anymore, chat. I'm tired of this. I've been screaming. I just don't want to watch this anymore. Don't make me watch this anymore, chat. Please. Please don't make me watch this anymore. I beg of you. Just a second, but at least don't tell me what to do. I do what I want. These tabs. Good enough. Whatever.
Kim Yo Jong's her name, right? In the DPRK.
Yeah.
She's one of the highest up in the
Wait,
the DPRK's
what country
government.
are you
The
using?
Democratic People's Republic of Korea.
Let's not use
which
North
you would,
Korea.
Well, the U.S. has also had like very high people.
The actual name of the country is the DPRK, though.
But the point is, there's never been, if we're going to say communist, the prompt was,
we're making
do communist economies, countries treat women better? So if you have no female leader ever.
That's not the point. What are you? Honestly, I think everybody here hates Tai Lopez because he's not even doing anything. You feel me? Like, Tai Lopez is the oldest person here. I don't know how old this lady is, but like, Tai Lopez is like the oldest person here, and he's like the most clueless. You feel me?
But you gotta look at averages though, right?
No, but that's a bad average for you.
Can I have my disagreement on the original point? Let's go. Because listen, I think it's a fair point in some ways, but also like as a woman, I don't want just to have like a tokenism kind of representation. Like that doesn't. If Hillary Clinton became president, it would be no better for me as a woman, right? So I don't. That doesn't actually advance me. But what does advance me are civil liberties.
Now the capitalists are yelling at each other, bro. Actually, we've lost the plot, chat. Honestly, this is all Jubilee's fault. This question has nothing to do with like the actual topic of discussion. And it's the title. Or it was the title. Did they change the title in like while I'm watching this? Yeah, they literally changed the title as I was watching this. It's right here. And it's right here. It had nothing to do with the topic.
Having the ability to speak my mind, to pick which career I'm going to do, to decide if I want to have kids and if it's worth taking time away from the workforce or if I don't want to do that. The ability to have those freedoms.
But you don't. You don't. Sorry, lady. You might think you do. You don't. You think that a working class woman who's working 3 jobs in order to feed herself and her first kid can afford to take time off to have a second kid? No, of course they can't. I mean, she probably does, but for most women in the U.S. do not. But she doesn't have a traditional job either. So, like, nothing she's saying is applying to her.
Here. And yes, there are many flaws and there are things that take away from them in our society. But as you mentioned, legally, women have had equality for decades and decades and decades. And now that we have seen that time period play out, women have been advancing leaps and bounds. They are graduating college at higher rates here than men. They are starting to out-earn men when you look at apples to apples when they have the same jobs.
But again, none of this is like capitalist doing, even if we can see that that's true, which it's not, because yes, more women are graduating colleges now than like 5 decades ago because they couldn't go to the same colleges anyway. You know what I mean? So that's stupid. But comparing women now to women like a year ago, you're not seeing like monumental leaps and bounds of the amount of women graduating college because college is still inexorbitantly expensive. You know what I mean? It is unreal, like especially speaking about like women of color. You feel me? Like it's unfathomable for a lot of women in this country to go to college because college is so expensive and they can't afford it. This also isn't exclusive to women. This is like all people, but it includes women as well. You know? If people don't understand that they're lucky, circumstances are bringing allows for them to have a level of grace. You're lucky. There are many people who do not have children because it's expensive to survive. They don't want to make their child suffer in else called America. Yeah. And it's right, children are safer from mass shootings in a communist society should also be safe. True. True. Children are less likely to die of a gun death in a school under a communist society. Women are started getting more jobs. Women placed higher than men, but men are still getting jobs at some women are more qualified for. It's a stupid prompt. What are we arguing here? What are we arguing here? You feel me? Like, are we acting as though patriarchy exists and misogyny exists under communism but not under capitalism? Like, it's a dumb prompt. Who wrote these questions?
Education. They're outpacing them in their advancement within companies. Women and men need the same things, and that is freedom, autonomy, the government not getting in your way, equality, civil liberties.
Like, that's so dumb, because like, if the government doesn't do anything, you're not going to fix the disparities of women getting these jobs. You know what I mean? Without government intervention, this is the This is the same conversation that I had during the last couple of streams with dealing with representation in the streamer space. Because there are so few black streamers in these spaces, there will be a lot less likelihood of like black people being picked for events and being like collabed with and stuff of that nature. You feel me? It's the same thing in jobs, and it's the same thing for women. Because there are so few women in these like executive positions, if there are so few women in these spaces, then of course women are still going to be less likely to be picked for promotions and still less likely to be picked for jobs and selected in applications than their male counterparts, because there are still so few women in these spaces. But again, none of this matters, because even if women aren't still in these spaces, they're still going to be doing exploitation, and the majority of women are still going to be the victims of the exploitation. But apparently nobody in these last 30 minutes we've watched has even said the word exploitation. And that's kind of like the biggest part of anti-capitalist critique, is that like capitalism is inherently exploitative. And the reason why people don't like capitalism is because it is inherently exploitative. So I'm very confused as to why we haven't even brought this up yet at all. I wonder what she thinks about women not getting maternity leave in a capitalist society. Free market, baby. What is left, bro? Only the rich benefit from capitalism. There's no perfect economic model.
Economic stability is one of those things that
I
women
do,
and
and I
men
think
crave
we have-
and need. But
yeah.
you would say capitalism is what gives economic
Absolutely.
stability.
Or gives it
Even
better.
though 80% of
better.
women are living paycheck to paycheck, it's still better.
Wait,
than
but
China.
that's just relative poverty. So there's always going to be relative poverty, even if
Not in
everyone.
China.
80% of people, not even just women, living paycheck to paycheck is like, oh, well, that's just relative poverty. That's always going to exist. So Kim believes as though poverty is a necessity under society, and it's impossible to eradicate it. Then wouldn't it by and large mean that the most economically sound system is the one that has done the best job of mitigating that poverty, which the US is failing at currently right now, especially in comparison to China? Oh.
Wait, do you know what relative poverty is? There's always going to be relative poverty in every society, because relative poverty is just generally defined as making 40% less than the median income. There's always going to be a median income unless everyone...
What? That's not even what was said. What was said was very clearly 80% of women live paycheck to paycheck, meaning that's not relative poverty, meaning that when they make their paycheck, a significant portion of that goes directly back into paying off bills as they currently exist. Rent, water, food, like necessities. And there is none left over to have in like a savings in case of emergency. That's not relative poverty. You know what I mean? Because they can still be making less money relative to like the population, but still have money left over if we've catered a society around, you know what I mean, providing for people what they need to be provided for. He's saying relative poverty is good and necessary, and it can never be eradicated, and thus the people living paycheck to paycheck are required, in order to keep doing so, to keep society functioning. As in, exploitation is necessary for capitalism to continue, and thus exploitation is good because capitalism is good. That's what Cam is saying. That's Cam's talking point here. It's so stupid. But where was the same energy on relative poverty where we were talking about China? Exactly. Like what was this at when he was like, China has lifted 800 million people out of poverty, right? Where was that? It's relative poverty energy then. It's because Cam has no real positions. He's just arguing. Cam is not a good faith person who actually cares about like having a consistent position. He doesn't at all.
It's making exactly the same. So there's always going to be somebody living in relative poverty. But I want to address something you said earlier, that we're like picking and choosing, like the US isn't capitalist here, but it is here. No, it's like you judge a country if it's capitalist or not based on how it expresses capitalist traits. So we can say that like in general, the US is a mixed economy that's pretty economically free, right? But we can identify things in the government that we don't like, and we can say, okay, well, those things aren't really expressions of capitalism and we don't agree with them.
So let's just take three things.
That's so stupid. He's just so dumb. Because he's wrong. Because the expressions that the government is doing that he's claiming he doesn't like are extensions of capitalism. You can't see like a company growing from a small company to a medium-sized company to a large company and then absorbing its competitors. You can't see that and look at that and say, I don't like that, that's bad, and that's not capitalism. Because it very clearly is capitalism. It is the natural progression when you want to, incentivize exponential, infinite growth in these companies. Of course, when a company wants to make as much money as possible, which is the goal under capitalism, you're going to have companies who grow to a size and absorb their competitors in order to make sure that they can make the most money as possible. Monopolies are the direct result of capitalism. You can't put a ball at the top of the hill and watch the ball roll down and be like, oh, I don't like how the ball got to the midpoint. That's not how the ball should be rolling. I don't care if you don't like it. That is the natural conclusion when you put the ball at the top of the hill. And if you don't want the ball to pass the midpoint, what you have to do is fundamentally change the structure of the hill. And you are saying the hill is good. I like the good. I like the hill. Putting the ball at the top of the hill is good. I like that as well. However, the ball passing the midpoint of the hill, don't like that at all. That's contradictory. It cannot exist. It's so dumb. It's so stupid. And I don't want to hear Ty Lopez talk anymore. Please stop talking, Ty.
Let's take three things. Are women treated better? Do they thrive more under a communist country? I think it's not only symbolic, but it's also a reflection if you make a woman the leader.
I'm skipping this, bro. I don't care. I do not care about what he has to say ever about any of this.
Two,
skipping this.
Unfortunately killed number babies.
Skipping this.
It's a big problem, and even they admit it. So when we say here's the
wait.
female. Number two, I think it's a big deal that China massively disproportionately killed female babies.
Okay, wait. I can't form words to address this. I can't. It's such a dumb like topic of discussions. Cause like of course like we're like doing like of course now you have to have an abortion argument to be like, you know what I mean? That's not what abortion is, but like that's like a separate thing, and like it's so far off the topic of like communism versus capitalism. I can't do this at this current exact moment. It's making me so upset. I'm skipping this. Whatever Ty Lopez is saying here, I don't really care. I don't care. We're skipping this. Next section.
God damn it, Cam. God damn it, Cam.
You need a notepad.
No.
Yeah.
No.
We're back. We're back. I don't know what happened there. What was I saying?
Only the rich benefit from capitalism. Capitalism being the control of a state apparatus or a nation, government, state, whatever word you use, by a certain class. So if rich people are that class and they control that state apparatus, the government, that nation, of course they're the ones to benefit from it.
I think this question is stupid because framing it as only rich people benefit from capitalism is dumb. Because, I mean, obviously, of course, not only rich people benefit from capitalism. You know what I mean? That's like saying, like, if you said, like, only car manufacturers benefit from the sale of cars, that's just incorrect. Consumers benefit in some ways, of course, but primarily car manufacturers benefit from the, from the sale of cars, right? That's just how it is. So framing this question as like only the rich benefit from capitalism instead of like, I don't know, primarily the rich benefit from capitalism, or most poor people don't, benefit from capitalism, or any sort of thing like that would have been, it's kind of stupid. That's just me personally. Maybe I'm wrong and dumb.
Talk to the abyss. It seems like a TikTok. Do you guys disagree?
Yeah. You want me to explain why first before you go?
Yeah, hit me.
So I'm a Marxist, so I believe that society, through class struggles, transitions through different epochs or different modes of production, or different economic systems. So I believe that the Civil War was a revolutionary war in America that transitioned us out of the slave-based mode of production in the antebellum South into capitalism. I believe that capitalism is a superior economic system to slavery. In Europe, I believe capitalism was
I disagree with Eddie on his framing here, that capitalism is a different economic system than slavery. You know what I mean? Slavery utilized capitalism differently than our current iteration of capitalism, but at its core, slavery is a capital-based system. It is a system based on the accumulation of capital through and through. And you can't separate slavery, chattel slavery specifically, from the pursuit of and growth of capitalism. The same way you can't separate imperialism as it exists for the American enterprise from the current system of capitalism. You know what I mean? You can't. It's impossible because they are inextricably, I don't say tied because it makes it seem like it's equal, in that you can't have slavery as it exists without a chattel slavery as it existed without the pursuit of expansion of capital. You just can't. You can have capitalism without slavery, which we have now to a certain extent, obviously. But chattel slavery and capitalism is inextricably tied. You know what I mean? It's just, it is. They're not different. Right? Because slavery at its core is about the dehumanization of black people, yes, but that is only a means to an end in understanding the reason for why slavery existed, right? Slavery at its core was a conversation about exploitation. It is the ultimate form of exploitation, right? When we talk about capitalism and as exploitation as it exists, right? Let's take all this and I delete this. Let's say in our current capitalist system, you are a worker. This is you. You are a worker. And you put in a graph, right, this amount of labor, but you only receive this amount of compensation back in the form of wages. You know what I mean? If you are an enslaved person, right, I want. Okay, I don't know. I did brown. That's probably not going to be for the best. Use blue. Right? You are putting in the same amount of labor. You're getting actually none of it back. This is 0. Go back and try that again. Here. Right? This is still capitalism. We understand that this is wrong because this amount of money, we say, right, is exploitation. That's what that says, exploitation, right? You are exploited for this amount of money because this amount of money is extracted to go to your capital owner. You feel me? Why does that not also extend to this amount of money? Because you're making, as an enslaved person, you're making $0. You feel me? You're making no money back based upon the amount of labor you're putting in. Does that make sense, chat? So we never transitioned from a system of slavery to a system of capitalism. We just transitioned to a system that changed it from this to this. You've increased the amount of wages that you are getting for the amount of labor you're putting in, as opposed to getting back no wages for the amount of labor you're putting in. That makes sense? But both of these still fall under like the umbrella of capitalism. Capitalism. Yeah. It's so hard to write on the mouse. Does that make sense? Is that a good explainer of what I mean? So I'm curious as to what I'm curious as to what Eddie's gonna say about this. Are y'all still here, chat? Am I washed? Hello? Anybody? I just want to make sure I'm not talking to the void. And I'm not offline. I'm here. Good enough for me.
In many ways, a superior economic system to feudalism. But I would argue and agree that capitalism is better for everybody than, say, slavery.
Like, you can still rise from the bottom with capitalism, and that's most societies. So it's like this possible for, you know, the less wealthy to climb to the top if they have a good idea or like innovate on something that they think is a good concept.
We're talking about benefits, right? No, I see both your points. Definition, I know, now I'm being antithetical. I was telling you not to give you a definition. Now I'm about to give you a definition of capitalism.
We should establish definitions of things we're talking about.
Yeah, we gotta be on the same page about basic definitions.
I feel like when it comes to science and ideology, it just gets kind of messy. It's more. I feel like it's just so much easier to do logical, like.
Well, I mean, if you cite a definition, I'll accept whatever you give me. I don't know about these guys.
Nah, this is a trap. Hold on, let me finish this. But my idea of capitalism, I very much look at it within, again, very material, very.
Oh, sorry, I disagree with both of that. This is weird, right? Because I mean, like, he's only giving us like a black perspective to be like, oh well, capitalism, you can still rise up to the top. You feel me? Can you really? You know what I mean? Can you really? All right, not saying that like it's impossible to do. That there's no cases of you being able to grind and put your pull up yourself up by your bootstraps. You feel me? Of course it's possible. But like, is that really a like, does that happen enough to be a tenet of capitalism, or more of people who, despite living under the system of capitalism, are you know what I mean, able to find success within that system. You feel me? I don't know if it's more of, again, maybe they're reading the prompt more literally. Like, oh, when you say only, like you mean like only, and like, of course not only. It's like some people can succeed. You know what I mean? But I don't agree with like conceding ground that capitalism is like good for common people because it's not slavery, or capitalism is good for common people because some like working class people have, you know, made themselves a stable living in this society. You know what I mean? It still benefits primarily those with wealth and those with money and those who are rich, right? And as a black person going through your life, you understand that it's probably not going to be you for the most part. Because the system itself, because it's inextricably also tied to white supremacy, it's stacked against you. You feel me? It just is. Right? I think this kind of highlights my general problem with Eddie as a whole, in that a lot of Eddie's positions comes across as very class reductionist, right? In that there's never any consideration for racial aspects in these conversations, because it's starts and stops at Marx, starts and stops at Engels, starts and stops at an analysis of class, and never goes further of that with understanding. Because you would understand if you did analyze further that slavery was a system that's not unique. Slavery is a system that's not you know what I mean, was not crafted uniquely by like the European settlers in America. It wasn't. Chattel slavery as it existed was an extension of capitalism to suit their needs for cheap and very easily exploitable labor, while simultaneously placating the other, you know, working class white settlers in America proper. That's why slavery existed. It existed as a means to an end for the entire system of capitalism. You feel me? Tell me what's up. Hello. We're watching a Jubilee video. Unfortunately. Why am I watching this again?
Who has control over the military, judicial, legislative arm of a nation or a state. For an episode about capitalism, communism, we have not talked about class. Whatever class has control within that nation. And now capitalism would be the rich, the bourgeoisie, the job creators, having complete control within that society. Of course that would only benefit rich people. Of course you're gonna push for tax cuts. Of course you're never gonna talk about livable wage, you'll talk about minimum wage, it's harm reduction.
It's a tricky one. I'm not sure there's ever a time when wealth doesn't concentrate up, including Stalin, Mao Zedong, Pol Pot. It's all Castro. You don't think Castro was a rich man who was benefited?
Bro did the Trump hands, dog.
From the Cuban system?
Didn't he have almost $1 billion when he died?
But I want to interject real fast, because unlike Cam, I won't just accept definitions. So when we talk about capitalism, that's fine, that's your definition. But for most people, when we say capitalism, what we mean is the free exchange and selling and buying of goods, right? And
well, you're wrong. You're incorrect. I'm sorry, your definition is wrong. You can't separate that from the political power that comes with having that very large amount of economic power. You can't. You can't. You literally cannot. You cannot reduce capitalism down to just buying and selling of goods when that buying and selling of goods gets accumulated to billions of dollars of net revenue for your corporation and allows you to have political influence over the military, over the government, over other corporations. You cannot just separate that. You can't separate them. You can't. You literally cannot. It's just, it's so dumb. Because now you can reduce everything down to It's not real capitalism. It's not real capitalism. I told you, Ty has no idea what he's talking about. You feel me? Ty has looked up communism on Wikipedia the day before, got a list of all the leaders, and was like, talking points against. I'll do it right now. I'll show you exactly what Ty did. Chat.openai.com. Hello. I am debating a bunch of dirty communists tomorrow. Can you please give me a list of talking points to use and explain why capitalism is better? Blah, 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 I don't care about this. Economic efficiency, individual freedoms, incentives for hard work, wealth creation and poverty reduction, consumer choices and variety. Too long. Didn't read. Just give me a list of communist leaders and the bad things they did in short bullet points. Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, Fidel Castro. Easy. That's all I needed. I don't care about the rest of this stuff. And that's literally it. That's all he's done so far. You're right. It is in the same exact order. Hold on. It's in the same exact order.
More we say, I won't just say.
The Cuban system, including Stalin, Mao Zedong, Pol Pot. It's all Castro.
He's too easy to read. He's literally, I guarantee you, he did this exact thing. This exact thing.
Capitalism, that's fine, buying of goods, right? And the more you have of that, the more freedom you have in those decisions, the less the government's involved in that, the more capitalism you have. And
That's so stupid. Because guess what, lady? Not everybody can have freedom to buy and sell what they want. It's impossible. Oh, jeez, Louise. My napkin. I'm dying, chat. I'm dying. Wait, there's one more. There's one. Oh, jeez, Louise. Oh, sorry, bro. This is getting to me, dog. This is getting to me, bro.
we have seen capitalism expand across the world.
What I was saying is that it's literally not true. Because when you have capitalism and you have free markets, you have Johnny Appleseed who bought up all the orchards. Guess what? Nobody else can buy any orchards. They don't have any more apple trees to pick from anymore. So no, it's not a simple buying and selling, and the more people are able to buy and sell as much as they want to, the more capitalism it is. Because guess what Johnny's going to do? He has a monopoly on all the apple trees. He's now going to buy up all the orange trees and all the lemon trees. And if somebody doesn't stop Johnny, he will own all of the trees and all of the apples. And then nobody else gets to have any apples. It's true. So and this is why you have people who do believe in capitalism saying like Joe Biden, for example, I like capitalism, but like these companies can't go and do whatever they want to because there'll be less capitalism for the rest of us, right? I think he's stupid, but like it's true. It's true. And it's kind of crazy how we are 30 minutes into this and we have not yet heard the word exploitation. The word exploitation has not been uttered once, and that's sort of like the main thing. Okay, play.
Over the past 30, 40, 50 years, we have seen an 80% reduction in world poverty since 1990 alone. It was cut in half between 1990 and 2010.
Whoa, is that not like relative? Is that you can't abolish poverty? Is that not like relative poverty? Huh? Nothing? No? Nothing? Okay.
We have also seen a 40% reduction in child labor.
Yes. I wonder how that happened, lady. Miss ANCAP. Very clearly, it happened due to government regulation. Not capitalism. You hate the government, no? But the reduction in child poverty came from government regulation. Child labor.
The mortality rate for children cut in half. We've seen the maternal mortality rate fall by like 43%. We work fewer hours. It blows my...
Not due to capitalists. You very well-read and thought-out person. It's due to labor unions. The antithesis of capitalists. It's due to labor unions. You are working less hours now, and there is less child labor because of government regulation and labor unions. It's so very clearly what it is. Like, what are we talking about? She doesn't know what she's talking about. And there's still like 15 minutes left of this, dog. I just go to sleep, bro.
Mind that somebody could say only the rich benefit from capitalism.
What evidence do you have that that's capitalism?
Because these are
not China.
Thank you.
Poverty alleviation programs or the Belt and Road
Because
Initiative.
we're measuring as capitalism has moved into various countries, and we're looking at their poverty rates and their hunger rates, by the way, get cut. As more and more socialist and communist countries have fallen, which, by the way, we're down to only 5 at this point because most people are turning against it. As that has happened largely since 1993, we've seen more countries become democracies, more countries implement capitalism, and yes, sometimes it's mixed,
right, when
like
China
the U.S.
implemented
or the
Belt and
democratic
Road
socialism.
in their poverty alleviation programs,
dog.
though. So what evidence do you have that that's not having an effect?
That's when they did what?
Launched their poverty alleviation programs in the Belt and Road Initiative, which are intended to build up industrialization in countries who have been prevented from advancing their productive forces by imperialism, economic sanctions, and the U.S.-dominated financial system that emerged after World War II, where the IMF and the World Bank can basically decide whoever they want to give financing to. So like when Chile went socialist under Salvador Allende, Richard Nixon famously said, "Make the economy scream," and the IMF and World Bank went from giving them $200 million in funding a year to $2.
Why do communist countries always have to depend on capitalist countries to succeed? Anytime they don't, it's because there was an embargo or they weren't giving them money. I don't hear us.
Yes, you've answered your own question there. Like, interventionism. You just said it. All you have excuses like there was an embargo and there's like, you know what I mean? There's like sanctions and like there's U.S. interventionism and destabilization and like we've cut them out of the global economy and we won't even participate with them and we literally choose who we give loans to and stuff. You always say stuff like that and like You never say that it's communism's fault, but it's very clearly only communism's fault. Like Eddie did very clearly like lay out that like, yeah, the IMF chooses they pick and choose who to give loans to. And it wasn't until China came in and was like, yeah, the US won't deal with you, we'll help you out. You know what I mean? We'll give you loans. That like they started to actually be able to create like their own economic stability for themselves. And she's like, why does it always need the US's help? Like she just goes on a tangent about saying something totally different.
Saying that about North Korea.
The Congo is capitalist. The Congo is one of the poorest countries in the world. The Congo, though, is mineral rich. So much cobalt.
Tiger, thank you. That's the hair being pulled back.
Every single one of your folds needs cobalt to work. That is your real life vibranium. Capitalism has not helped the Congo. The disorder within the country benefits the capitalists at home.
True. When you say they're capitalist, what do you mean that the Congo is capitalist?
Well, you better
because
watch
your definition is not
If
mine.
you're African, you know who the new colonizers are? China.
Chad, I can deal with bad takes from Cam and Hannah. I can deal with bad takes, with bad faith actors, with bad arguments. I can deal. I can't deal with stupidity. I can't deal with the stupidity, Chad. I can't. He's so dumb. He's so dumb. He's so dumb. Like, not even like in the normal ANCAP way. He just doesn't know what he's talking about. If he knew what he was talking about, he would know that freaking Eddie had literally just addressed it. Literally just addressed it. The China or the new communism talking points. I can go back. Here. The Belt and Road Initiative. He literally just addressed this. And if he knew anything about what he was talking about, he would have been like, well, isn't that, you know what I mean? Aren't they just doing colonialism? Right? And then we could have had the conversation here, but like, you assume he listened, you're right. You're right. I am assuming too much. He's so dumb. He's so dumb. Because like even like most capitalists don't make this point anymore because you could just be like, but the IMF. And it's just like, it's over. You feel me? You're back running in circles.
Who's extracting resources out of Africa?
Ty, I love you. Terrible argument with me. Great with the
you
other type of guys,
just
but not
because
with
you
me.
say it's terrible doesn't mean it's
To be
terrible.
clear,
That's just the
I wouldn't accept your definition of capitalism, but I will obviously accept your definition of socialism. That's what I meant. Like, obviously, I know what I think capitalism
Wait,
is.
what was
so
that?
my definition of socialism.
Just so I know, why is
communism,
China?
whatever.
Why do we think? Are you making the stance that supposed altruistic / centrally governed China is not a new capitalistic empire moving into?
Okay, but if they are, then you should have no problem with them. You know what I mean? Why are we having conversations about China if you think that China is capitalist? I don't get it. I don't understand it. Why'd you even bring up China in the first place if you think that China is capitalist? They're on your side. You should be bringing it up for a positive. Look how much capitalism has brought prosperity to China. But no, you're saying China bad because they're doing communism, but also now they're new capitalists. It just doesn't make any sense. Because he wants to use whataboutism, but he's not articulate enough to do so. True. Yeah.
You see it there, moving into Africa.
China is not America. There are clear differences in what America does in the Congo versus what China does. America comes in, they set up military bases. Unmarked airplanes will come into the Congo with multitudes of American military and multiple corporations. You know what China does? They come in with intellectuals, with a document signing. Would you guys like to do this trade deal? If you do this,
sure,
we'll build a mining facility that the state can run, and that will benefit your taxes. And you know what the Congo will say? They'll say no. And you know what China will do? They make a new deal. You know what happens when you say no to America?
And how does that...
They bomb you.
Capitalism
and the
falls. Again, that has nothing to do with capitalism's fault.
Yes, it is. Yes, it very clearly is, because this is the problem, is that the capitalist side won't even acknowledge that U.S. imperialism is directly related to capitalist endeavors. Why do you think they want to be in the Congo in the first place? Money, monetary reasons. Very obviously so. I Let's continue.
There's no perfect economic model.
There's no disagreeer there.
I mean, sorry to start already, one of the main misconceptions about communists is that we want to establish a utopian. One of the foundational communist texts is Friedrich Engels' Socialism, Utopian and Scientific, where he says, he criticizes these utopian socialists who are saying, overnight we're going to create this perfect society. He says, it's not possible. You can only build a better society out of the one you currently have. So we have to take what we currently have as far as a socioeconomic structure and figure out how we can build something better out of that. But it's never going to be utopian. There's always going to be problems. There's always going to be corruption that needs to be combated. We just want to build a system that's more rational and based on fulfilling human needs and human flourishing rather than simply profit.
So I think we would agree from capitalism
I hate that I agree with the nerd, but I agree.
Side that there's no perfect system because there are scarcity of resources. And again, I think you are always up against human.
She's just stupid, right? She's just dumb. We make an abundance. We create an abundance right now. We produce more food than we need, and most of it goes to waste. We produce more technological goods than we need, and most of it goes to waste. We have an overconsumption problem in America. We consume, and that's it. We consume and we throw out, which is why we have such a huge pollution problem in America. You know what I mean? And now she's gonna start talking about human nature. Like, what is even human nature?
Nature, which has a lot of corruption, which has a lot of selfishness, a lot of self-interest.
Says who?
Why I like capitalism is that I think it's a system that acknowledges that and says, how do we restrain those impulses within people? How do we create a...
No, it doesn't. Because this is so stupid, because she wants free market capitalism. Capitalism directly allows the human impulses to take over, if you believe in the human impulses, right? It gives them tools to take those impulses that they have and, like, I'm going to be worse with them. You've crafted an entire system around allowing people to take abundance for themselves and not allow other people to thrive. Like, so even in collaboration, right, you've taken the one or two people who are like, yeah, bro, I'm an evil monster and I want to take more for myself. And now you have other people scrounging for scraps. Didn't she earlier say I advocate for no government intervention? Yes. She very much was like, I don't want government intervention. She has no clear and defined policies. She's stupid. She's an idiot. She's flip-flopping back and forth.
system where in order for you to get what you want, in order for you to get your needs met, or in order for you to get rich, you have to provide some kind of value for other people. And so that is what instigates productivity.
Why?
That is why we see.
It's not even like about what you want. Capitalism says if you want to survive in this country, you have to, sell your labor, and other people need to deem you as valuable. And my take is you should be able to survive by nature of just existing as a person. I think we should provide for people to survive by nature of them existing as a person. And this isn't a new concept. Throughout the human existence, we've been collaborative. We've been a group of people or a species that work together to work for the survival of ourselves. We've lived in communities, and we've raised in communities, and we've fed in communities, and we drank in communities, and we've crafted societies around those communities. And capitalism takes that and burns it all to the ground so that one singular person can be the person who owns the community, and you work not for yourself or not for your own survival, but for the benefit of that person. That's what capitalism is. And that is why capitalism is bad.
Such large innovation gains. We've seen such big technological gains under capitalism. There's still going to be problems. I don't think there's any way to say we will never have people who are poor. We will never have corruption. But I think capitalism does the best job of taking what we're dealing with and trying to make it operate in a system where people are civil to one another and there's natural cooperation within it.
There's no way. There's no way she said natural cooperation and capitalism in the same sentence. There is no way. No way at all. There's nothing natural about capitalism's cooperation. There's just not.
When people say a perfect economic system, it's like saying, what's the perfect science? Communism, Marxist-Leninism is a science. What is the most rational way to organize a society to make sure that it can actually see a future?
And if you read the
and then that's a good point that's kind of totally left out of here, because we're leaving out the entire ecological impacts of capitalism. We're leaving out the exploitation aspects of people who are living under capitalism, even those who are working. We're leaving out, we're conceding so much ground to what capitalism is actually doing to our planet and our society to talk about how bad a theoretical communism could be. You know what I mean? A theoretical communist society could be. We're not even talking about the horrors and reality of capitalism as it currently exists. And that's the main point. That's the main reason as to why people are looking for a different system than the current capitalist system as it is now. Because capitalism is failing. It's failing to address the needs of most of the population. It's failing to address the needs of the way we exist on this planet. It's failing to address the needs of society and growth of the human existence. And we can't even address that because we've been yelling about China all this video.
Chinese Communist Party, they are constantly going, Stalin did this was right, this was wrong. Cuba did this, Tito's Yugoslavia did this was right, this was wrong. They're constantly learning and experimenting.
Stalin wasn't open to too much ideas.
But we're in 2023.
No, but let's talk about the modern countries, though, because within the actual communist countries right now, you literally have people going swimming with sharks to escape them. You don't see that happening in capitalist countries.
Because of this. She's pissing me off. One, the Congo. Yes, you do. You have people fleeing destabilizing regions in developing nations currently, right now. Yes, you do. And two, the only reason why people are fleeing communist countries is because of destabilization, the embargoes and sanctions that Western nations, specifically the US, is putting upon these countries. It's very clear. It's extraordinarily clear. Never mind. We're just gonna continue.
period. One, because you don't have to. We just let people leave when they want to. So that's a big part of it.
Oh, so she's saying when she says the capitalist nation, she just means the U.S. She doesn't mean the nations who are doing capitalism. But it's crazy because they just said that China's capitalist, like not even like 5 minutes ago. And then they also said earlier that China doesn't let people leave. So I'm kind of confused on what their position is. I don't know.
But two, it's because people know what's better for them, and they are getting out of communist countries in droves when they can. The 2 out of the 5 top countries that are trying to immigrate here right now are Cuba and Venezuela. People are starving under these systems, and so if you're a pragmatic person, you have to look at communism's track record, where it has killed millions of people. It is the leading cause of ideological death in the 20th century, and at some point you have to acknowledge that I care about people, I want what's best.
This is like brainworms incarnate. It's just brainworms incarnate. I think I've lost like years off of my life by watching this video, and it's not even over yet.
But this isn't doing it. This isn't working. They also won't let you have a free press in any of these countries. They literally have a government-controlled press.
My TikTok's been banned 7 times after
Mine's
the
been
U.S.
70.
Yeah, so there's no free press here
U.S.
either.
government's not running TikTok. It's still China.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong. The U.S. government forced TikTok to hand over American servers to a company in Texas called Oracle, who proceeded to hire a bunch of U.S. State Department operatives and NATO operatives, and that's when we got banned. So
And that's why I can't talk about
no
Jubilee
longer, it's no longer run by
gone.
China.
It's almost gone. It's almost gone.
I'm just saying there's no freedom of press in the U.S. either.
Hey, Snells, thank you for the follow-up. I tweeted an hour ago.
It is freedom of the press.
What does freedom mean in a country that imprisons the most people in the world?
That's a great
True.
question. Super opposed to it. It means that the government
You can't say that's good. I don't like that. Anyway, this is why capitalism is the best. Like, you can't do that. You can't concede ground in it. And this is, again, back to the point where, like, she keeps trying to separate the U.S. from capitalism when they are intertwined. You can't. You can't. You can't. You can't. You can't. Bro.
too big. There's too many laws. We make things that are
too many
nonviolent and have
laws.
nothing to
Communist.
do. Listen, if I'm a capitalist, I want to protect people's person and their property. Those are the only laws that
If
should
you're
exist.
a capitalist, you protect the
And if you
protect
violate those
property
two
and
things,
property.
no,
Profit
people's
and property.
personhood and their
Nobody's
property.
protecting
Individual
profit.
liberty is essential under capitalism.
What are tax cuts?
You pay everything that you're supposed to, and then they give you money back.
So you have more money if there's a tax cut, right? You have more money if
You
you
have
a tax
more
cut.
of your money that they took
Who
that comes back to you.
Okay, so with those tax cuts that just happened, who has more of their money?
What do you mean, who has more of their money? No,
Who-
I would
what
spell it out
class
for me.
I got you. Which people gets to keep more of their money? Who?
Well,
Not
I
all of us.
presume it's
not
the
we,
people
it's-
making more money, obviously.
They're not. The words I want to say. The words I want to say. Right now will get me banned. Will get me banned. They still can't follow? No, it's not that they can't follow. Cam is playing it's playing stupid right now. He knows what he wants them to say. He wants them to say that capital owners are making more money, right? That's what it is. But Cam is just like, we haven't even had the problem with this is that we haven't had a conversation about exploitation, and that Cam is like, well, it's the capital owners' money, so of course they're going to have more of it back. And we haven't even got the conversation that it's not their money, because their money is based upon exploitation. Their money comes off the backs of their workers. That's the huge point, the disconnect that we're missing. And Cam knows that disconnect is missing, and he doesn't want to acknowledge this question because it would lead to asking that one question: whose money is it? Because it's not the capital owners' money. It's not. What right do they have to that money? What right do they have to the money? None. None. They have no right to the money. Because it's not their money. Whoa, what was that?
Tax rate and you make more money, you're obviously going to pay more money, and if you get a tax cut, you're going to get more back because you made more money.
Are you referring to Trump only
that's
giving
absurd.
tax cuts for the rich or something like that? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, as a socialist, I'm not really here to argue for taxes. I'm more to argue for worker ownership of the means of production. But I think Bunny wanted to go.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. So I guess hypothetically in capitalism, you have free
Really
market.
cut there, so I don't even know if they even got to that point or not. So.
Correct? So when free market occurs, it goes to near zero profit, correct?
When a free market occurs, it
In a
goes to
free
zero
market,
profit?
the equilibrium point is near zero profit because they'll keep undercutting each other until they maximize demand.
Why would they work or do anything?
Exactly. I'm talking about classic economics. Yeah, classic economics. But let's say
It's true. And like, again, they're too stupid to understand the hypothetical situation. And that's fundamentally the case, right? Not necessarily that it's near zero profits, but more in that there's a net like profit that will be hit theoretically for every industry that ever exists ever. As though, like, again, I'll draw it out for this sake. When you have a company, right? You see, you have Amazon or whatever. Amazon has a price that's like on like on a timeline scale that's here, right? And let's say this is zero. This is like infinite or whatever. And then you have like Temu that comes, and Temu's like, oh, Amazon is charging this amount of money. We're gonna charge this amount of money and take their market share, right? So now all the consumers are going from Amazon to Temu because they're offering the same or similar products for less price, taking Amazon's market share. Amazon sees this and they undercut Temu by going here and offering this price. And theoretically, this goes, right? Like theoretically, this happens all the way down to that goes all the way down to net zero profit. Does that make sense, chat? Theoretically, that's how a free market would operate. A company has a price here and they set this price. After they innovate, they set the price. Other companies come in after that, they cut their costs and they're able to lower the price down to the Temu level. And then it goes down. They say, okay, we need to react to the markets and the way they're shifting, lower the price again to the next level. And theoretically, it should infinitely go down until it hits near zero. It would never hit zero, obviously, but it should hit near zero, right? That is what she's talking about when she's saying that profits are always supposed to trend near zero. At no point should profits ever go up in capitalism, right? Or cost. A cost of a good should never rise in capitalism outside of increased demand, right? But so like this is where you have like concepts like elastic and inelastic demand, things that you don't need for survival, whose demand doesn't necessarily increase. You have different conversations, right? I don't remember if inelastic demand is the one that like demand is stagnant and is never going to change. Like healthcare, for example, would be like inelastic demand in as far as the need for healthcare isn't going to change. It's always going to stay at like 100%. Everybody is always going to need healthcare. You feel me? And so there will never be an increase of demand. So healthcare or our cost of healthcare should never increase because demand will never increase. Right? So you can make an argument under capitalism that like this concept doesn't work because of demand, as opposed to like an inelastic demand. Like, yeah, Zeta is correct. Inelastic demand product would be like water. Elastic demand would be cigarettes. Yeah. And so in a concept like water, the demand for water should never increase because it's already at 100%. So the cost of water should never change because it's inelastic. because demand's not shifting. And if capitalism is operating on the theoretical basis as it should be operating, this concept should happen for the water. You should never have an increase of price. You should never have companies who are like here, Amazon and Temu, right? And in Temu deciding, okay, well now I'm going to charge this amount of money now. Because why would a consumer who's down here be like, okay, I'm going all the way up here now to pay this cost? It doesn't make any sense. So that's the concept of that she's speaking of, the money speaking of here. One more example would be morticians at funeral home agencies. Yeah. Of course, you have like concepts like inflation or whatever. But like then you're getting into like other concepts. All in all, this is all fake. It's not real. These are not like real things that exist and can definitely be ebbs and flows because this only works if this is a closed system. You feel me? This only works if this is a closed system and there's no outside influence. However, there's a little hole here, right? Where good old the US of A government comes in and will be like, all right, Temu, you need to be right here actually. Or you need to be right here actually. And that is regulation. You know what I mean? Good thing capitalists never talk to other capitalists or do any sort of price fixing, which would be regulation, right? Which old girl who's for free market economics would be against, right? So if Amazon and Temu came together, like on this side over here, and we're like, let's say Amazon and Temu, and decided, hey, we're going to be right here, actually. We're going to stay in this area. You feel me? That's the free market. So this entire concept doesn't work because the free market doesn't exist because corporations would not abide by the free market. That makes sense? But of course, they can always just be like, oh, well, then we just won't let them. You know what I mean? Or that's not capitalism. That's a monopoly. A monopoly is not true capitalism. There's no true competition there. But they would never say how to regulate the monopoly because that would require government regulation or government intervention. I hate economics so much. I hate talking about this so much. Can I stop talking about this, bro? Can I sleep? Will y'all let me sleep now, chat, please?
Like Amazon is a prime example. They keep pricing, like I guess, like earning less and less profit. So wouldn't that create monopolies? And I mean, that's how you want to get more demand, right?
But, okay, so first of all, like capitalists are going to be generally against like trusts and monopolies.
Exactly.
Like at the same time.
Exactly. Exactly. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. No, they're not. Show me one capitalist who owns a large corporation who's against monopolies, Cam. Show me one. Show me one. Show me a single capitalist who is growing and expanding their market share and who sees a smaller competing brand growing and is like, I'm gonna let them go. And doesn't be like, bro, I will give you literally 10 times what you're worth to stop competing with me. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. This is why the government is necessary. This is why anarcho-capitalism cannot work. It can't work. Because the government is necessary to bust the trust. It's necessary to dissolve the monopolies. Because the end goal of capitalism is a single monopolistic entity that owns everything. That is the end goal. We are in the late stage now where we are getting closer to that, but that is the end goal. Because tell me again, Cam, how mom and pop shop can keep up with Amazon. What is Amazon's competitor, Cam? There's not one. That's the answer. That's the answer. I'm so tired. I'm so tired. I hate this so much. I hate this so much. I want to sleep.
How could
Every time.
No, it does not every time. How
Or oligopoly.
But is
economy the
how could
ultimate
a
monopoly?
socialist argue? Yeah, exactly. It's rich to men when socialists or communists argue against monopolies, or they use that as a hitting point against capitalists. When like the biggest and most powerful monopoly that you could possibly have is a state. Wait, it is a state-owned monopoly. Yes, it is absolutely a monopoly.
And how are you going to break
Because
up
there's no
monopolies?
competition.
That's the goal of the government. Again, you can't simultaneously have the take that the government is separate from capitalism in America, but under socialism, it's a state-owned monopoly. You can't. You fundamentally cannot. You can't argue under that capitalism is just an economic system. It's not a system of governance, but socialism is both an economic system and a system of governance. It's not. In both circumstances, in America or in any other socialist system, you have the economic system that is in theory a closed system, but you will always have an apparatus, except under communism, which is its own thing. You will always have an apparatus who comes in and regulates to make sure that system operates in a certain way. You just do. You just do. Functioning, fundamentally, right? Because communism, which is why he said socialism, not communism, even though socialism is not the topic of discussion, is that closed system. There is no state apparatus because there is no state. So you can't have an argument against communism, which is why he said socialism. But again, that is separate. That is different. In words means nothing. You can make any equivalence you want. It's so stupid. It's just, I hate it. I hate it.
The state, what apparatus is going to come in and break? And in a lot of these, can I make one point to it? In all these socialist countries like Nicaragua,
antitrust laws. Okay, what about what does what does Mrs. I hate government regulation do? Where is Mrs. There should only be 3 laws. You know, what does she have to say about antitrust laws?
now investing in small business and trying to encourage their civilians to start small businesses and to innovate because they view that as a better alternative than monopoly. And what apparatus do you use to stimulate small business?
Here's my problem with this entire discussion. You know what I mean? My problem with this entire discussion is that it's completely separate from the plight of the workers. You know what I mean? Almost entirely separate from the real reason why people want communism in the first place. It's, you know what I mean? It's completely separate from like actually addressing, you know, the problem that that workers are facing. Currently, workers are facing exploitation under capitalism. There is a system that does not require the exploitation in which, you know, we can pursue, and we should pursue that because capitalism is inherently exploitative. I would love to have had a conversation about why capitalism is inherently exploitative. And because once you acknowledge that capitalism is inherently exploitative, you have to acknowledge that capitalism has to go. Fundamentally. There would never be any like, oh, it's not real capitalism. Oh, you know, government intervention is not real capitalism, because capitalism as it currently exists is inherently exploitative. You work and you only get a portion of that revenue that you've generated for the company back to you in wages. That is exploitation, textbook exploitation, and that needs to be addressed. And this is 40 minutes of just not addressing that.
Break up monopolies besides the state. And when the state's doing that, it's not acting as a monopoly.
Ones the government creates.
So what about maybe in the class struggle, you had, like you said, feudalism, slavery, capitalism. We tried communism. Maybe it's the rise of libertarianism.
Slavery is part of capitalism.
No, True. It's not.
What is?
Slaves were goods.
No.
Slaves
Wait, that is the
No. Yes. Slaves were commodities. They were commodities. Slaves were commodities. They were bought and sold. You can literally chat. Please, somebody like clip where she said earlier in this. I'll look it up myself, actually. Buy it, sell.
That's fine. That's your definition. But for most people, when we say capitalism, what we mean is the free exchange and selling and buying of goods, right? And
Were slaves not bought and sold, Hannah? Were slaves not bought and sold? How is it not a part of capitalism? I'm gonna keep that saved.
So why
that is
did
the government
Hannah.
more than anything intervening in the free exchange of buying and selling?
No, it wasn't. Show me anywhere during slavery where the government intervened to do slavery. The government was doing what you said it should do, was not regulating. There was zero regulation for slavery, bro. Zero regulation. And it wasn't until there was government regulation that slavery ended. You can't just say that slavery was like, actually, slavery was the real communism.
Wait. Why does slavery predate capitalism by thousands of years? Yeah, it's a part of capitalism.
Shadows. Oh my! He's a moron. He's a moron. He's stupid. He's an imbecile. He's like he's acting like he's so smart and he's stupid. He doesn't understand what chattel slavery is. He's so dumb. And this is my problem, right? Because the other two communists sitting next to him are silent. Radio silent. The other two communists are radio silent when the black man is advocating for understanding what slavery actually is. So much for solidarity, right? Now it's a 1v3 where he's trying to explain to them what shadow slavery is.
Why does it predate it by thousands of years?
No, that's actually a great point. I'd like to hear that answered.
Let's move on that because it's a hot topic. It's too spicy.
No, it's not too spicy. I actually want to wait. I want to respond because you wanted to make that point. You cannot say.
Hannah, I don't want to argue.
You do want to argue. You wanted to make your point, so let me make it back.
Hannah,
and then you're going to try to say it's too spicy for me. No, I got you. Like, let me respond to you. It is not capitalism coming in and enshrining enslavement. It has been on the books in multiple kinds of countries, multiple economic systems throughout history, and in fact.
I'm done, chat. I'm done. Have a nice day.